Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 6 o'clock on Sunday, the 30th of July. Today, North Sea oil could be set for a comeback. Rishi Sunak is going to announce millions, apparently, in funding for a new carbon capture project in Aberdeenshire, and that could create 21,000 jobs.
And pet owners are in a state of shock in response to viral footage of a thief posing as a delivery driver stealing the puppy of a multi-millionaire.
And do you know how to get the perfect roast chicken? We're going to be putting your questions, if you've got them, keep them coming in now, to Sunday roast expert, renowned chef and friend of the programme, Kevin Woodford. He knows how to roast a chicken.
He does, and I'm very, very interested in getting the best recipes from you guys out there, because I'm cooking a chicken today, and I'm going to cook your best recipe, so get them coming in. What's the perfect roast chicken? We want to know, but of course, the most important thing is the latest weather headlines. There they are now.
Just as one low pressure clears away, another one is arriving as we head throughout today as well. Join me later for the full GB News weather forecast and what that means for you.
But it's lovely to be with you this Sunday morning. Do join in, won't you? I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Martin Daubney, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Yes, there's a lot to talk about today. It's interesting that even the columnist, who's usually very serious on things, well, he's making a serious point today. Peter Hitchens, there in the Daily Mail, is talking about the dog napping. Basically, he's saying that it has come to this now, brazen thefts of something like a dog is happening because people have lost faith in the police and criminals realise that they can get away with things.
That's right. There's been a big spike in dog napping since the COVID lockdowns. Now 6 dogs every day are dog naps. 2,160 reported last year, and we're going to have a big report on that today, how to avoid it, and some really surprising dog breeds that are being targeted. I was really surprised by the sorts of dogs. Like, what sort of dogs would you think?
Yeah, because obviously we're talking about it because of Twiglet, the miniature dachshund, a beautiful little puppy, and you can understand that a sort of one of those posh breeds might be worth a bob or two on some sort of a black market scenario, but it's not just those. I thought it might be fluffy cavapoos and things like that. But it's not the breeds that people go for the most.
No, so you think, but those little things you put them in your handbag, easy to kind of manoeuvre. But in actual fact, the kind of American bulldogs, Staffordshire bulls, Staffies, and French bulldogs. So the more
French bulldogs are big though. They're very trendy.
Yeah, that's it. So these bigger kind of more aggressive dogs, you think would be really hard to steal. Because they're quite scary dogs, right? But in actual fact, they're being targeted. They're worth a lot of money, of course, and they're a shortcut, just like everything these days. They're a shortcut to a fast buck.
I mean, we've sort of known about it before, haven't we? It's always been there. But suddenly, with the theft of Twiglet, and it's the fact that we were able to see him being stolen, which is from his own home, from the kitchen of his own home, which was so startling, I think, and has made all dog owners feel very, very vulnerable.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, luckily, that house had a CCTV camera in the kitchen, and we were able to see how the whole thing happened.
It's really
but most of us live in ordinary houses. Maybe you've got a doggy door out to the garden. How vulnerable is your pet dog at the moment?
Yeah, and a third of Brits own dogs. Of course, many GB News viewers do. So this is the topic really close to our hearts. We want to talk about how to avoid this, how to keep your dog safe, and just to be on the general lookout for what is a rising trend in crime.
Has it ever happened to you, or has it happened in your neighbourhood? Very scary. And also it gives us an excuse to have a look at your dogs, I think.
Yes, it does.
If you want to send us a picture of your pooch, please get in touch. It's lovely to talk dogs. No. In fact, we're going to be talking to a veterinarian quite soon about how the best way to protect your doggy. But pictures we always love, especially on a Sunday morning. It helps us all wake up. So do send it in to gbviews@gbnews.com, won't you, please? Right, now, on to that big story, which could mean a lot of jobs and an awful lot of money to spend. Rishi Sunak says he's going to pour millions into a carbon capture project in the North Sea, hoping, of course, to outflank Labour on oil and gas, but creating, hopefully, 21,000 new jobs.
Yeah, the Prime Minister will meet energy bosses this week to lay out plans for energy security in Britain. This comes as net zero and ULEZ face increasing scrutiny.
Yes, it's becoming very, very political now, I guess. We're joined by energy expert Malcolm Grimston this morning. And a very good morning to you, Malcolm. What do you think? Is this workable, this plan that we're going to hear more of later, I think, from Rishi Sunak?
Well, we certainly need a plan. We need 3 things from our energy. It has to be secure. It has to come when we need it. It has to be economic. It has to be as cheap as possible. And it has to be environmentally as least damaging as possible. And of course, those three things are often in contention with each other. And trends change as the world changes. In the 1970s, we were desperately worried about secure supplies. By the 1990s, there was loads and loads of natural gas around. Oil prices were low, so we focused more on getting the price of energy down. That led to a period when there wasn't investment in energy, and we're now back at the period where we haven't really got enough kit of various description to keep the secure energy as reliable as we'd like it to be. So some sort of long-term thinking about energy, I think, has been needed for the last 20 years, and it's very encouraging that that's happening now. What they actually come up with, of course, is a different matter.
Yeah, you're dead right, Malcolm, because there's no detail at all laid out about what the portfolio will be. And, of course, the big debate is what's going to be the reliance on net zero tariffs and on renewables. Grant Shapps talking tough again today, saying Starmer's stance on North Sea oil threatens the lights going out. We've already kind of had that. Renewables, we know, aren't keeping the lights on when the wind drops in winter and when there's no solar power. Do you think that the Tories will actually have the guts to say we're going to commit to a fossil fuel future, or are they going to once again run into net zero targets and basically leave us at the mercy of importing expensive fuels or being at the mercy of unreliable renewables?
We have a fossil fuel future, there's no doubt about that. For example, when the wind isn't blowing, you just mentioned, or it's at night so we're not getting solar, then it's natural gas that takes over to make sure that we still have the power coming into our homes to pump water around, to run all of the essential services, and of course to our hospitals, to our traffic lights, things that are vital to our safety. So it's a matter of how rapidly and how sensibly we can move towards new source of energy. It is very encouraging that the government is taking a much more active line about new nuclear, for example, which I think is a very important part of the solution. But whatever future you look at, you're going to see that we're going to need quite a lot of gas in particular for the foreseeable future. And then the question arises, as you say, to what extent do we make that gas from our own reserves, particularly in the North Sea, but maybe even onshore where fracking is possible? And to what extent do we continue to be growingly important on imports of gas when we know that an awful lot of the world's gas is to be found in that sort of elliptical area that includes the former Soviet Union and the Middle East, which are areas which there are questions over the political stability, clearly.
Well, clearly we're going to hear a bit more about it tomorrow because the Prime Minister will be in Aberdeenshire and that's when he's going to sort of announce what it's all about. At the moment, we've just got the vague phrase that it's going to be a carbon capture project. What does that mean?
Well, one of the technologies which has actually been around since the 1970s but is attracting a lot of attention now is that you try and trap the carbon dioxide after you've produced it and then take it somewhere and sequester it, it's called, capture it and then sequester it underground, probably, in a way that it won't then get back out into the atmosphere. Now, I say we've been doing it for a long time for a variety of reasons, but it's not yet been done on the sort of scale that we'd need to be talking about. But what might happen, for example, is that you could run a coal station on more or less pure oxygen coming in instead of air. That would mean that what was coming out was fairly pure carbon dioxide. You just capture all of it and then send it through pipelines, either to be buried underground or to be converted into chemicals called carbonates, which are quite stable. And I think it's, my view for a long time has been that given the amount of coal that China and India in particular are using, we had the statistics a couple of days ago that confirmed that last year we used more coal than any year in history. So coal is doing very well right the way through this climate crisis. If we're going to see China and India continuing to use coal, and I've no doubt that we are, then capturing the carbon dioxide becomes an essential technology alongside the technologies that don't produce carbon dioxide in the first place, like nuclear and renewables.
Malcolm, as Bill Clinton so succinctly put it, it's about the economy, stupid. Front of the Sunday Express today, winter bills set to soar again because of soaring energy costs. At the end of the day, Malcolm, this comes down to what people are prepared to pay. Is this now a situation of ideology clashing into reality? People care about the environment, but they also care about not being broke. They care about not being cold, about not being hungry. And surely we have to face reality now, and we have to have a mixed portfolio that isn't solely tied to the kind of Greta Thunberg mentality. We have to be realistic.
Yeah, so it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning about having these three requirements out of energy, and they're all important. Actually, evidence suggests that the most important is security. Any government which tries to live through large-scale power cuts is going to get it in the neck when the next election comes. Then economy, and then maybe environment as the correlation. But on the other hand, I'm absolutely convinced that climate change is real and serious, and that what we've been seeing about sea temperatures in particular over the last couple of weeks are beyond frightening. But it has to be done in such a way that people don't feel that it's become an us and them, like Stop Oil, the Stop Oil movement, Just Stop Oil, which really seems to be trying to set this up as a group of people against normal people. I think that's such a mistake. We need to recognise. But the other thing is, I've said, we've not been investing enough in energy for some time in an attempt to keep the costs down, and that means we have to spend a lot of money now on kit. So we're stuck, I think, with higher energy prices than we've been used to for a while. But there needs to be more sensitivity in recognising that the position of the first decade of this century, when it was all environment and there was very little attention going to economics and security, that we have to get back to valuing all three of these elements and coming up with policies that are always going to be compromises, but which deliver to a sufficient extent on all three of them.
And the politicians, interestingly, have got to figure out where they stand on the issue and then have to sell it in a way that, obviously, they will want us to vote for them. And they've got to do that within about a year.
Yes, I don't envy the decision makers at all within this, because I think most people in Parliament accept that climate change is real and we've got to do something very serious about it, which is why the net zero policies were adopted. But equivalently, the definition of sustainability is that we look after our own needs today without compromising the needs of people in the future. Now, that's a heck of a tall order when you're looking at a world which is still addicted to fossil fuels. Not only coal but also oil had their best year ever last year, despite it being 35 years since we all got together in Rio and said we've got to stop this. So it's not an easy decision at all. But I do hope that politicians won't entirely abandon the environmental element of all of this, because it is extremely important. And while I believe that maybe it was got out of kilter during the early 2000s and became the only thing that people were looking at, it remains enormously important that we do what we can to put some sort of lid on temperature rises for future generations.
Yes, got to think of the future generations. Malcolm, as ever, it's good to talk to you and have you explain it all to us. Thanks very much indeed. That's Malcolm Grimston, who's an energy expert and knows a thing or two about this. Yeah. I tell you what, it's going to be so interesting watching both political parties, both of the main ones, struggling with this, trying to figure out how to not completely abandon green issues, but to sell it to us in a way that they say... I think pragmatism is the best argument, is to say we can't be one or the other. We have to suck it and see as we go. Yeah,
but at the moment, this is all mouth, no trousers. It's like, we need to be more balanced. We need to be less reliant on imports. We need to be energy sovereign. Yeah, we know that. Yeah. But how? What's the portfolio? And give voters the choice. If there's a clear choice, if I vote for you, then I'm voting for more North Sea oil. I'm voting for a balanced portfolio. I'm voting for a coal mine in Whitehaven. I'm voting for energy sovereignty. Then that's clear. But at the moment, Anne, I think they're basically the same, with different coloured rosettes. Voters want clarity. When they're given the choice to vote, as we saw in Uxbridge, they voted against ULEZ. People just want clarity. Don't you think?
Yeah, well, yes. I think for instead of jargon and we're going to see so much slogans and things like that going into the next election, I think they have to treat us as grown-ups. Yeah. We want a greener planet, we want energy security, but we can't necessarily, we don't want to be punished. Yeah, and I think that's the key point. It feels like being punished a lot at the moment.
Yeah, people feel like, every time we switch our border on, every time we drive, we're somehow bad citizens.
And every time Rishi Sunak gets in a helicopter to go somewhere important, suddenly he's a terrible person.
And
I mean, I actually don't want to live in a country where it's our politicians have to walk around in sandals and hair shirts. Nobody would have this problem with a politician in the United States. They wouldn't say the President of America must walk everywhere or bike, would they?
No,
they'd send him his helicopter and his plane.
They celebrate Air Force One and these giant sort of choppers.
Instead, we punish our politicians for actually needing these things. Do we really want a Prime Minister who has to bike everywhere? No, I don't think we do.
Well, they pretend to bike everywhere for photo calls, like Sadiq Khan, and then get to
and
300
that's
grand.
wrong. You see,
Land Rover.
That's silly. I think it's silly.
It's the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
We should all live, in the hair shirt life, and they can get in their choppers. Just be honest with us.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, anyway? You're more important than us at the moment. GB Views at gbnews.com. Let us know what you think. Shall we get on with the rest of today's stories, actually? Tell you what else is going on. Well, Rishi Sunak has said he's on the side of drivers. He said that to the Sunday Telegraph, and he's ordered a review of low-traffic neighbourhoods. They're known as LTNs, and they are planned to reduce traffic in residential areas through filtered permeability and traffic calming. Filtered permeability.
It's a fancy way of saying you're not allowed to drive in them. US rapper Kanye West has revealed he has had his Twitter account reinstated after an 8-month ban over offensive tweets. The billionaire owner of X, Elon Musk, has welcomed the return of the controversial rapper.
And finally, England cricket star Stuart Broad has revealed he's going to retire after the 5th Ashes Test at the Oval. The 37-year-old said in his statement, "I've always wanted to finish at the top." They're going to make a film about him one day, aren't they? A dog named Twiglet. Because he's sparked a nationwide hunt with CCTV footage showing him being taken by a thief who posed as a delivery driver and got inside the house.
It's really harrowing footage as well. We showed that earlier. We'll show it again in a moment. 60-month-old Twiglet, here it is, was taken from millionaire Jamie Vindis's home in Essex on Wednesday. Fortunately, the family received a tip-off from someone who paid 700 quid for the pet to give it back to its owners.
And Jamie's wife, Jo Vindis, spoke earlier in the week to GB News' Mark Longhurst about that ordeal. Technical problems this morning, but it's been very, very upsetting, particularly because there was video of the dog being stolen, and more and more people are saying now that it is brazen, these sort of thefts, because thieves think they can get away with it because there is so little policing around. So, is your pet vulnerable? Is it frightened you? I must say, it really did frighten me.
Yeah, and I think
it's the idea the guy gets into the kitchen and then sets about, and the dog puts up quite a fight, actually.
Yeah, he was sort of struggling to get away, and I think actually, if one good thing comes of this, Anne, that footage has made us all kind of react in a very emotional way. It's wrong, it's cruel, and it could happen to any of us.
It's like, they say an Englishman's home is his castle. That castle was invaded, and if there's nothing, apart from your home, probably the next best thing that you feel most emotional about is your pet.
Yeah, you can see that footage on screen now. Look, this guy has got gloves on, he's just manhandling the dog, who's desperately trying to get away.
And then put it up for sale on Facebook, we think, where somebody spotted it and thought, that looks like the dog that we were all hearing about, and dobbed it into the police.
Yeah.
And the police went and, retrieved Twiglet, who is now back happily with his owners. Shall we talk now to Pete Wedderburn, who's a veterinary surgeon and animal welfare journalist? Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Were you as alarmed as the rest of the world at that video, and that what can happen? Somebody can actually get in and pinch your pet.
It's absolutely awful to see the stress that poor little dog was under. And can you imagine the stress the owners would have been under when they woke up and their little dog was missing? It's a dreadful situation. And it is surprisingly common. In 2020, there were around 2,000 dog thefts. That's like about 7 or 8 dogs a day being stolen. So it's not just something that's a one-off on social media. It's something which is unfortunately quite common. You do need to context about, like, there's something like 10 million pets in the UK. So like 2,000 out of 10 million still isn't very many, but it still is enough to make people certainly they should be aware of this, and they should take some steps to make sure their pets are safe.
So what can you do? I mean, most people like to give their animal, if they maybe have a dog flap, the run of the garden during the day while you're off at work or something like that. Is that something we should stop doing and actually keep our dogs more under lock and key while we're away?
Well, since the start of COVID, the price of dogs went up hugely. And that means is that a lot of people are now aware that a dog could be worth, as much as a very expensive camera or expensive phone, or even a wallet stuffed with cash. And because of that, a lot of the burglars are aware that this is well worth stealing. So yes, it does mean that we should be far more aware of the security of our pets. Just as you wouldn't leave a wallet stuffed with cash in your garden, well, you shouldn't leave your pet unobserved in your garden. And I think just generally increasing security around your pet makes absolute sense. I think there's huge pleasure for dogs going out through dog flaps and the freedom they have to do that. But you should do things like make sure that your garden is secure, make sure that, that there's a locked gate at the front, make sure that you have CCTV on areas approaching your back door so you can actually see what's happening. All of those things make good sense.
Yeah, Pete, I mean, we're talking about this story now, of course, because that footage has emerged. So maybe a common sense solution for a lot of pet owners is to fit a camera where their dog kind of sleeps, just like we're seeing now, because we're here talking about this because of this footage. It's what that's got that emotional response. But there are some really interesting figures here. 6 dogs a day, Pete, are now stolen nationwide. London, unsurprisingly perhaps, is the dog theft capital, followed by Kent and then West Yorkshire. But I was really surprised about the breeds, the types of dogs that are being stolen. They're not all like Twiglet. They're not all small dogs and easily carried. American Bulldogs, there's been a 350% boom in their theft. Staffies, a 610% boom. And French Bulldogs, big dogs, a 31% increase. Why are people going for those types of dogs? You think they'd be the last dog you want to steal. They're massive.
Yes, but they're also extremely valuable. That whole world of breeding, I suppose, large muscular dogs has become really very lucrative. And so, again, people look at that and they say, those puppies are worth a fortune. Therefore, if I can steal one of the dogs, they will also be worth a fortune. And often they are quite actually good-natured one-to-one. They have a reputation for being highly aggressive, but they're often they're really lovely dogs. And dogs are so trusting that it's surprisingly easy to call one to you and to go away with them. And so that takes me on to the next thing, that you should never leave your dog unattended in public areas. It's very common for people to leave their dog outside a shop just for 5 minutes, maybe while they're going to get something, but it lays your dog wide open to opportunistic thieves. They can just take the lead and walk away. Also, don't leave your dog in the car. People know not to do that for reasons to keep the dog healthy, because dogs can overheat in cars very easily. But as well as that, even if the dog's not going to overheat, again, a passing person would be able just to break into the car quickly, take your dog and go off. So you should never leave your dog unattended in public. Even as simple in the park, if you're prone to letting your dog go off and then come back when you call them, when your dog runs off, somebody else can see your dog and take your dog and run with it. So you should, again, keep your dog, within eyesight and close to you as possible.
And what about having your dog chipped? I mean, most are chipped nowadays, aren't they? Wouldn't that put... I mean, I'm surprised it doesn't put off a thief.
Yes, well, the thing is that it's possible a thief could steal a dog and then could go to the microchip database and say, I want to re-register this dog in my name or in the name of the person they sold the dog to. So, what you should do is, it is law that every puppy should be microchipped from 8 weeks of age in the UK. But what you should do is, first of all, make sure that you contact the database whenever your details change. So if you move house or if you change your phone number or change your email address, contact the microchip database to make sure it's up to date. What you should also do is, if your dog does go missing, you should contact the microchip database and tell them that your dog is missing. And what they will do is they'll put an alert on your dog's microchip record so that if somebody does try to re-register the details, you will be contacted immediately, and the situation will be resolved.
And Pete, one final question from me. We're talking today as well, the police are vowing to go and solve every crime like they should be doing that anyway. I'm assuming dog napping is fairly low down their pecking order of crimes to solve. What kind of punishments can dog nappers face? And would you like to see them beefed up?
Well, absolutely. The punishments are low and fines are low. The number of prosecutions for dog napping are very, very low indeed. The government did promise to introduce something called the Kept Animals Bill that included dog theft becoming a specific crime and included more protection for dogs. But unfortunately, there was a government U-turn and they dropped that bill in May 2023. So, that was very disappointing for everybody in the animal welfare world. And I would ask viewers to contact their local MPs and say to them, look, you need to restart the Kept Animals Bill because that's the sort of action that's needed.
Yeah,
superb.
Yeah, thanks very much for joining us with those wise words of advice. Thank you, Pete Wedderburn, Pete the Vet, he's known as. And if you've got, I don't know, if you feel very vulnerable now, what are you going to do? Are you going to change the way you look after your dog or keep your dog? And how devastated would you be if you lost your dog, as Twiglet's owners
I think
did?
most people would be absolutely heartbroken.
Yeah.
But there's loads of great advice there, simple advice from Pete. Really heartwarming. We're actually having this conversation because of something bad that happened, but our dogs are so precious and there's loads of things we do to keep them safe.
Yeah, how precious is your dog to you? Give us a call, or not a call, I mean an email, or send us a picture. Yes, please, gbviews@gbnews.com. Right. Now, is it raining where you are? It's going to. What happened to summer? It's been and gone like that. We'll be asking a weather expert to tell us why we're going to look forward to the next 2 weeks of nothing but rain, apparently. Here's today's forecast, however.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Botry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest where that rain will be arriving, turning much greyer skies, turning damp as well as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures held back underneath this cloud and rain, but you might squeeze the 21, 23 degrees Celsius across parts of eastern Scotland and England during the afternoon. That rain is going to continue to spread its way eastwards this evening, could turn quite persistent for Northern Ireland, parts of northern England. Some spray on roads is certainly possible for if you are travelling later on today, and then much greyer skies throughout tonight, with those outbreaks of rain continuing, feeling quite humid and sticky as well, not dropping much below 16, 17 degrees Celsius. But for northern areas of Scotland, actually a little bit of a chill in the air first thing on Monday, might drop into mid-single figures in those rural valleys. And it is northern Scotland that's going to see the best of the sunshine throughout Monday, light winds as well, so a relatively pleasant day here. Elsewhere, pretty drab and grey with some outbreaks of rain throughout. Some brighter spells trying to poke their way through, but it is still going to feel relatively humid if that brightness arrives. Temperatures climbing to highs of around 22 degrees Celsius. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin. I tell you what, I've said welcome back because you've already been in touch with some of your ideas for roasting chicken. It became a bit of a thing yesterday.
It did.
Controversial subject, because there was a big report out saying that if you just blindly follow the advice of the manufacturer, the food provider, as to how to roast a chicken, you may well be overdoing it, and that posh chefs, and we're going to be talking to Kevin Woodford a bit later on, would do chicken for far less. They would cook them for fewer time. What do I mean? Less time than you're recommended to. So we've been saying to you, right, you're going to probably cook a chicken today, are you, for a roast lunch? How do you do it? And for how long?
There's been some great ideas. So I'm going to cook what I think is the best recipe that we get sent in today. We've got a couple of early doors contenders here. Do you want to start with Fred?
Fred says, now, Fred is obviously all about health. But I think you've gone too far, Fred.
So do
he says, I would skin my chicken first. That allows the excess fat to drain off, and that's heart healthy. And then I'd put it onto a griddled baking tray covered in foil. And then I'd put it on for 2 hours at 200 degrees.
See, Fred,
you've got no skin on it, so that it's going to dry out so quickly, but especially for 2 hours at 200.
Yeah, not being funny, Fred, I think that'd be like trying to eat a cricket glove. I think that would go a bit tough. That's not, and the skin for me is the best part.
So dry, wouldn't it?
But Brian, you've thrown a curveball here. One I'd like very much. Cover the chicken with strawberry jam, Anne. Or any jam of your liking, sprinkle with rock salt.
Oh, yes.
Sweet and... Yeah,
do you know that really... I can see that would work. And I'm a vegetarian, I don't eat chicken, but
Cover it with foil, 2 kilo bird, approx 1 hour 45. That, I think, is an early front runner. I'm liking that a lot.
I like the idea of putting something sort of gooey and sweet on it. Like, I think I've done it before with honey or... something like that, or maybe maple syrup, something like that.
And
something very sweet, but you would have to cover it with foil then, otherwise the sweet honey or whatever would burn before the chicken had even cooked.
Too quick.
But the mixture of the two flavours, I think, might be quite interesting. We'll have to put those a bit later on to Kevin Woodford. If you've got any great recipe ideas for the best way to cook a roast chicken, that's what we're sticking with today, GB News at no views at gbnews.com. Also, lots of people are already getting in touch saying that they would be absolutely devastated if their dog was kidnapped. Sophie says, my English bulldogs, Dolly and Hector, were both rescued from the Edward Foundation. I was enjoying the Cornish sunshine with them yesterday.
And Leon's got a great point. We're going down the road of surveillance. Things like CCTV in properties will become as popular as with dashboard cameras. The police, not attending low-level crime, will encourage surveillance for one's own security, as is shown with the theft of Twiglet. And Anne, that's what we were saying. If anything good comes out of this story, it's the fact that we're all talking about it.
But think about it.
Keep your own area safe with a camera. Why not?
Yeah. Meanwhile, shall we talk about the weather?
Yes.
It's a very Sunday-ish sort of subject, but it's going to be important because forecasters are warning that temperatures could fall to 17 degrees as Britain braces for 10 straight days of rain. A very grey and drizzly start to August.
Yeah, the Met Office has predicted a week and a half of showers throughout the summer month as many families look to make the most of the school holidays.
Oh, it's time to put the barbecue away before you even properly got it out. Let's speak now to weather expert Phil Morrish. Hi there, Phil. Hello.
Good morning.
I mean, honestly, we're nearly in August and we're talking about almost 2 weeks of straight rain. What's going on?
It's been very wet. The jet stream has been sitting over the southern part of the UK and it's moving west to east. It's been 5 weeks since the weather changed. Remember in June, we had that lovely heat wave, temperatures up to 32 degrees, 16 days of 80 degrees, and it was really beautiful. And that was the jet stream was further north. Now the jet stream's been sitting over the south of the UK, and it's been very, very wet indeed. And the weather changed on the 26th of June, and since then there's been a lot of rain. Now, the wettest ever June we've had was July 1988. July 1980, that was very wet indeed. We've had some really wet Julys so far for about 50 to 100% more rain than usual, and it's certainly been very wet indeed, with the south of England getting most of the rain.
Yeah, Phil, there might be a lot of people listening and watching to this now rubbing their chins and thinking, well, I thought we were going through global warming. I thought the planet was burning. I thought we're all going to boil to death. It seems that everywhere is getting warmer apart from Britain.
The key's in the word, Martin. Global means globally we are getting warmer. Now, last week, as we've all seen, record temperatures in Rome, in Sicily, in Africa, in China. We're breaking world records in all these different places. But in the UK for this last couple of weeks, we've been sitting on the wrong side of the jet stream. The jet stream is high-altitude winds that come across the Atlantic. The low pressures trap those jet streams, and they've been coming into Britain every 48 hours with the weather fronts and the rain, and it's been pretty incessant. And this has been happening now for 5 weeks. And the Met Office is saying there's going to be another week of this occurring with fairly cool temperatures, with rain as that jet stays in that position. And this week we've got high pressure developing to the west, so the winds are going to turn into the north. So as Anne says, temperatures in the day up in Scotland, perhaps 16 degrees, struggling to reach 20 in the south. You won't need your sun cream in that. It is certainly very unsettled. But I am hopeful after next week, things will start to change. What we've had so far in the last few weeks, so far the weather in the UK, we've had in 6 weeks blocks this year. We've had very, very cold, dry spells in February, incredibly wet spells in March, very, very dry again in May, and now very, very sunny in June. We've gone back to the wet. So one more week I consider, then it will start to get, the weather will start to change. That jet stream will start to move north. And the second week of August, I'm looking forward to sitting in my back garden with better temperatures and sunshine on my head.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I really am. We can put up with another week of rain if we've got something to look forward to. Phil, thank you.
That's right. Weather in this country tends to go for about 6 weeks. We've had 5 weeks now, so one more week, and our things are going to start to improve, Anne.
What? And then 6 weeks of sun? Who knows? Thank you so
certainly
much.
1 or 2 weeks. Whether we get 6 weeks, but the weather always improves second half of August, and certainly when the children go back to school, it's always nice in September. So don't despair, warmer weather will return again.
I love that line. The weather always improves if you wait long enough. It does, yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. You put a smile back on our face.
Thank you, Martin. Have a good day.
Absolutely smashing. We will. That's great. Thank you.
Call me a cynic, though. It seems that the weather forecasters don't seem to be able to predict what's going to happen next week. Yeah, they seem to be experts on what's going to happen to us long term, at the end of the century. Call me a cynic, but isn't it just the weather? And the weather always changes.
And it's Britain. You know when he said you've got just one word that says it all, and I thought it's Britain.
Yeah.
Britain is the word. Our weather is like that, I suppose. We should stop moaning about it. Maybe that would help. Anyway, do stick with us. We're going to look through the Sunday newspapers in just a few moments.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the live desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin.
Let's take a look now at today's newspapers.
Can you believe this? The Mail on Sunday has a picture of traffic chaos as holidaymakers were stuck for up to 4 hours in Dover.
Yeah, same old Britain. And inside the Sunday Telegraph, there's a picture of the first official memorial statue of our late Queen. It stands 7 foot tall and features one of her beloved corgis. Do you think there's a likeness?
Can't really quite tell from that, but I hope so. Sunday Telegraph is leading with the controversial anti-car schemes, with the Prime Minister saying he is on the motorists' side.
Let's see if we believe that. The front page of the Mail on Sunday leads with the Big Brother story entry system into the EU, meaning every Briton will be fingerprinted before entering Europe.
And the Sunday Times says our Prime Minister is planning to pour millions into North Sea oil.
And the Observer leads with the hidden delays behind care for cancer patients.
Sunday Mirror reveals outrage over Rishi Sunak borrowing a helicopter to travel 200 miles as the world roasts in a climate crisis. He should have gone on a bike.
Yeah. There you go. One rule for him, one rule for us. Well, joining us now to go through the papers inside is a writer and journalist, Emma Wolfe, and, of course, the broadcasting legend, Peter Price. Good morning to both of you. Shall we start with you, Emma? So the front of the Express is households to face, once again, the pain of soaring energy bills this winter.
Absolutely. We're hardly even through summer. Not that it's been much of a summer thus far, but anyway, here we go.
Summer started.
And there's been a few signs that inflation may be levelling out. I don't really think so, but anyway. But there's more bad news for gas and electricity consumers, i.e. all of us. We are not prepared for this winter. If it's a cold winter, we are simply not prepared. Energy experts are saying we haven't sorted out our storage problems, we haven't got our production supply under control, we're still absolutely at the mercy of wholesale prices from abroad, we're still going to have to import pretty much all of our gas and electricity. The whole thing is an absolute mess. Millions will be left unable to pay their bills, and are the government going to help out? Are they not? It's really bad.
I must say, yes, given the amount of time we spent talking about the problem as we were coming out of winter, you would have expected certain things to have been lined up and done to prevent it being so awful the next winter, but nothing appears
It's not a new problem. We have been talking about it, as you say.
But it's also been a problem that's been happening for years and years and years. And years and years. As long as I've been born, I'm so pleased to be back.
It's so lovely to see you back.
Pleased to be back. Lovely lady at the end. You two in the middle, and me in my seat.
Awful
seat still.
I've missed you.
Awful seat. And I've missed you. Sorry about that.
No, we're all thrilled to have him back, though, aren't we? It's lovely. Let's look at what you've been looking at. And that's Rishi Sunak saying that he is on the motorists' side. Now, what's he really saying?
Well, he is saying that, but what is interesting, Richie, I beg your pardon, has promised drivers that he is on their side of this controversial anti-car scheme. He's also saying that it depends on their cars and the situation is that these people need their cars. It's going to hit working class people. It's going to hit the white van drivers. It's going to be all over the country. And he...
Yes, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, this is just a London problem.
No, it's all over.
At the moment, it is, you know, we're thinking about London, particularly the effect it had on the by-election in Uxbridge, which the Tories expected to lose. Everybody expected them to lose. But once they were talking about ULEZ, it changed. And this is going to happen in the end all over the country.
Yeah, but the Prime Minister's also saying, which is a really good point, people haven't got the choice to, you know, they should have the choice to move, which I think is a really interesting point. If that's going to be the problem, and they have got an old car, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. We've been in a pandemic. People are still trying to get themselves together, and it's to save the pollution in the air, which goes into the air. Maybe all this energy should be put into China to ask them to start not polluting, and the Americans with the coal that's being dug up again. That's what upsets me. But it is hitting the working class people.
Of course, it is. It's hitting cabbies. It's hitting people who can't afford to replace their cars. And we don't necessarily want people replacing cars that are perfectly serviceable. I don't want millions of cars being chucked out in this country because they don't meet the...
But we do want breathable air in our cities.
Of course we do. Of course we do. But until the alternatives are in place, it is not possible.
But this is not just a London thing. You're absolutely right. It's already in Birmingham. It's already in Newcastle. It's already in Norwich. It's already in Oxford. They've tried it in Liverpool. They've tried it in Nottingham. It's in Bradford. It will go nationwide. Angela Rayner said last Sunday this will go nationwide if Labour get in. The point is, Emma, are the Tories actually going to do something about this? Are they actually going to say, we're against this, or are they going to do this thing? We're going to review it.
Yeah, we're going to
I know what that means. It means we'll talk about it and then ignore it after the election.
Even Labour
are they actually going to do it?
Exactly. At the moment, this headline to me seems like Rishi Sunak realising that most people are motorists in this country, sitting on the fence, saying, oh, you know, it's not a war on drivers. But neither party, I don't think, are coming out clearly on one side or the other. Even Keir Starmer has failed to row in behind Sadiq Khan, his out-of-control mayor of London, with his ULEZ madness. And the thing about ULEZ, I'm a cyclist, I'm not a driver, but the thing about ULEZ and low-traffic neighbourhoods is they don't do the job. They divert traffic around. Where I live, in central London, you have this terrible rat run of people driving around and around, increasing pollution, congestion, traffic.
And journey lengths.
Can I ask also...
Absolutely, because they can't get to where they need to go.
Where does the money go? The collections of money. Where does that go?
Straight into the coffers of City Hall.
Yeah.
And where does it get spent? Yeah. Well, we don't know. That's what it is. I believe it's a tax. It's a taxation.
It is a tax.
Posing as salvation. But we need some political clarity. If the Tories are actually going to say we're against this, then stand against it and give voters a choice. Yeah. Surely that's what this should be about.
I don't know. I mean, I understand where Sadiq Khan is coming from as well in London. He's written a book about how to, you know, about pollution and the way it affects us, our health. We do need to think seriously about the pollution in our cities.
We do, but
we want to bring up our children in breathable air.
It's not working. Yeah. I'm cycling around with a 3-year-old on the back of my bike through central London. It's absolutely traffic choked. ULEZ and low traffic neighbourhoods, and they're not working. I agree with you. Of course we want breathable air.
The quality of air is better. Isn't it?
Am I right?
No, we've been told that.
Not that I've noticed, and I've lived here for 3
Am I right in
decades?
assuming too that older cars don't have to pay road tax? Where's the analogy in that?
Yeah, that's the classic.
So, yeah,
the classic
you mean very old?
The classic cars.
Like
so all of a sudden, but my car's coming towards an older car, and it's going to be road tax free. So that
it's the lack of joined-up thinking, I think. Yes, I mean, Emma, you're right. You're making that point that it's actually not stopping congestion.
It's not stopping congestion, but also I object to people like Pete who have cars that are perfectly serviceable, who aren't, you know, belching out black clouds of smoke that we have seen from some vans and lorries and things like that. I mean, what are they doing going through central London? But anyway, I don't want people
delivering
like you
stuff while people sit at home.
We can't keep throwing out all our fridges, all our washing machines. This is our planet.
No, we should be hanging on to them.
Are still working. If they work, OK, there must be a way of sorting it out.
it's almost like they deliberately want us to be consuming new vehicles rather than making good amending.
And there's nowhere to charge all the new electric vehicles anyway.
And don't even start with electric vehicles and the cost of the batteries and what it's going to, and the second-hand value of electric cars. There is none, because the battery costs something like £20,000.
They're normally clapped out within 5 years.
Oh, don't.
It's obviously a very emotive topic. You know, you've got to send your views in at home. And do you want to see clarity on this? I think that's just what people want. Give us vote A and give us vote B rather than just being a uni-party. Right, that's my tuppence.
OK, well, as if that wasn't controversial enough, should we talk about Brexit?
Well, I'm just going to hand over to Martin.
To Emma, in the Mail on Sunday, they're saying, right, you voted for Brexit, now look what's happened.
This is very much.
We are apparently going to be treated much the same as when you go to the States. When you go to the EU countries, you're going to be fingerprinted and photograph taken of you, and you'll have to provide all sorts of different ID. Is that a problem?
Well, I'm going to hand over to Martin immediately. This is the headline. It's the headline. It's a shocker. To go to Europe, probably from next summer, we are going to need to have our fingers printed, faces scanned. We're going to have to apply for a visa costing around €7, around £6, which may or may not be granted to us. We have to supply all sorts of personal information, criminal record information, all of that, where we're going to be staying, what's our purpose, to be absolutely monitored. There's going to be delays, chaos for ferries, lorry queues, that kind of thing. And it's going to cost the economy millions. This is really, well, it's revenge for Brexit.
You've had to do that to go into America all our lives, and we've complained about no security in these countries. Now they're putting a bit of security in, everybody's up in arms. I think it's a brilliant idea.
So do I. I'm
brilliant
not bothered by it
idea. Love it. Love it.
I like going to America on holiday, and I'm not bothered
and
at all about being
And you've got to queue for 2 hours to get through sometimes.
Sometimes you have. But,
what I would say is, wouldn't it be great if the European Union had this sort of security on their own borders coming in from Africa or the Middle East, when we don't know who's coming into the European landmass, and then we have freedom of movement within the entire 27 nation-states. Then they end up in France, then they come over the channel to us, and no one has thought about fingerprinting or face scanning any of those people.
But will this
European landmass.
Martin, will this happen now? Will this happen now then, Martin? Will this happen now then?
It will happen because for twofold. First of all, they absolutely want to treat the UK as a third nation, an outside nation. We're in the same queue as like Afghanistan or the Middle East. They want there to be chaos at airports. They want to penalise us. They want Brexit to be tangibly disastrous so they can say, look, this is what happened. I think I'm with you. It is a form of punishment. Having said that, we should be looking at security, and it is good to know who is moving around. Unfortunately, it hammers tourists who go legitimately, and it doesn't stop people coming illegitimately to our country who don't even have a passport when they rock up.
OK, that's another controversial issue. Let's go to Rishi Sunak's helicopter.
This is really
annoying. He had to go 200
this.
miles, and he is being criticised for taking a helicopter.
He's the Prime Minister of this country. It's a very powerful job. He needs every minute of every day to do things. He has a security. He has to be looked after because we live in a world now where people kill people and destroy people. And this helicopter, and the world is frying. They never mention all the helicopters that are picking up the water and spraying all the countries and the planes. I find this the most waste of space front page story ever. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, I agree with you because it's the Mirror, so there we go. But I don't see why. No, I think it's a culture in which you jump on a helicopter, you jump on a private jet. I really object to that. I object to being lectured by people like this who then take a private helicopter. He doesn't need that for security.
So how is he supposed to get up there?
Train?
There's no train, there's a strike.
Well, there we go. Sort out the strikes first and then tell us you can't travel, mate. I don't want to be lectured by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as they come in on their private jet. I don't want to be lectured by people flying to, you know, not Davos, but those places where they have their wonderful climate change conferences and then leave by private jet. I'm sorry, it's a culture change. If we all need to clean up our act, they need to clean up their act.
Well, it's a classic political...
Such a wasteful, bureaucratic
But it's a classical political hit job. It's like, on the one hand, I'm on the side of the motorist, on the other side, I'm taking a chopper. But how would you like our Prime Minister's time to be most efficiently spent? Do you want him to go on a train?
He can work on the train. He can have meetings on the train. Do you remember when Liz Truss took a private jet to Australia and back, and it was something like £500,000, and I'm sick of it. This is money that we need. This is money.
We're talking about people who are world leaders.
Should matter.
These are world leaders we're talking about.
And
Well, why should I don't know whether I want to live in a country where we say that the Prime Minister has to go everywhere on a... Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny how the Mirror are really angry about this, but they didn't even bat an eyelid when it was exposed that Ursula von der Leyen, European Commissioner Chief, was taking jets 120 kilometres. So look, they all do it.
Yeah, they all do it.
When I was in Argentina on holiday, I learnt about the Prime Minister or the President who flew in by helicopter every day to the office and flew back because the chance of them getting killed was 99.9%.
Yes, it is there, yes.
To me, he's the Prime Minister of this country. He's got a job and a half to do. Get there, do the job and get back.
Maybe if it was just the Prime Minister, but I just feel it's every minor cabinet minister's got private cars here, there and everywhere. And this is a lot of money being wasted. And when we're looking at budgets and when we're talking about cancer treatment and money for old people and money for the disabled and all of that, let's look at the budget. Let's trim back. Let's stop wasting hundreds of thousands of pounds on unnecessary nonsense like this.
But also, how much are you going to pay out on security if he went on the train, getting it sorted before he went, going underneath the train with the bomb machine? How much is that going to cost?
Well, there you are. That's given you plenty to think about, hasn't it, this morning? Do get in touch with your views, because whilst it's lovely to have Emma and Peter with their views, we love your views as well. You're allowed a coffee now. You've earned it. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed. And don't go away. We've got plenty more to be talking about. We're also interested in seeing pictures of your pooches, please, because we're talking a lot about dogs this morning, particularly our worries about dog napping. But if you've got a particularly beautiful dog you'd love to share with us, at least a picture, then do send it in. gbviews@gbnews.com.
Hey.
Stay with us. First of all, you'll want to know about the weather too, won't you?
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Vaughtry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest where that rain will be arriving, turning much greyer skies, turning damp as well as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures held back underneath this cloud and rain, but you might squeeze the 21, 23 degrees Celsius across parts of eastern Scotland and England during the afternoon. That rain is going to continue to spread its way eastwards this evening. Could turn quite persistent for Northern Ireland, parts of northern England. Some spray on roads is certainly possible for if you are travelling later on today. And then much greyer skies throughout tonight, with those outbreaks of rain continuing, feeling quite humid and sticky as well, not dropping much below 16, 17 degrees Celsius. But for northern areas of Scotland, actually a little bit of a chill in the air first thing on Monday, might drop into mid-single figures in those rural valleys. And it is northern Scotland that's going to see the best of the sunshine throughout Monday, light winds as well, so a relatively pleasant day here. Elsewhere, pretty drab and grey with some outbreaks of rain throughout. Some brighter spells trying to poke their way through, but it is still going to feel relatively humid if that brightness arrives. Temperatures climbing to highs of around 22 degrees Celsius. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my new show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m, where real people get to meet those in power and hold them to account. Every week, we'll be hearing your views from up and down the country in the real world. Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything, I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 7 o'clock on Sunday, the 30th of July. Today, North Sea oil could be set for a dramatic comeback.
Yes, apparently Rishi Sunak is going to announce millions in funding for a new carbon capture project in Scotland, and that could create 21,000 jobs.
And police forces will promise to investigate every crime. That's after ministers applied pressure to improve the rates for solving so-called lower-level offences.
And do you know how to make how to roast the perfect roast chicken? We're going to be putting your questions to a Sunday roast expert, if you like, with a renowned chef and friend of the programme, Kevin Woodford.
And as always, we'll bring you the latest weather update.
Just as one low pressure clears away, another one is arriving as we head throughout today as well. Join me later for the full GB News weather forecast and what that...
Well, it's great to be with you. We're talking dogs and we're talking how to make the perfect roast chicken for Sunday roast. I'm Anne Diamond.
Yeah, and I'm Martin Daubney, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Sorry, we fell on air there at 7 o'clock because none of us were... I was having a nice little bit of breakfast, which I don't normally have, but today I did. I was totally by surprise. I realised I'd got a mouthful.
You've earned it, yeah.
When I wanted to say hello. We've got lots of things to talk about today, and we'd love your contributions, please. And particularly what this thought of dog napping means to you, because I think everybody was very frightened to see the video, we'll be showing it a bit later, of Twiglet, the dachshund, being dog napped, and then subsequently put up for sale. I mean, they could have lost him forever, but luckily the story ended well. What would it mean to you? And are you, having seen that video, are you going to change the way you look after your dog? Maybe not allow it out in the garden unless you're watching it at all times. I don't know. But also, we're looking at roast chickens.
Yeah, we are. And that, for me, is the hot topic. I want to know your perfect recipe, because I'm cooking a chicken today. So over to you. What's the best way to blast the bird? We've had some great things in already today.
Jam.
Yeah, jam.
Strawberry jam.
The front runner is Brian. Cover the chicken with strawberry jam or any jam of your liking. Sprinkle with rock salt. Cover with foil for a 2-kilo bird. Approx 1 hour 45. That's making me drool. Brian, that's the front runner. But if anyone out there's got a better recipe, ping it over. I'm going to cook it later on today.
This is not... Alan says, just put the chicken on top of an upturned saucer in a slow cooker without liquid. Leave it on low for 5 hours. Works a treat.
I bet that's moist, but what about the crispy skin?
Cooking in its own moisture.
Does it get the crispy skin in?
Yeah, you wouldn't, would you?
Well, that's a deal breaker.
Bung it in the oven quickly afterwards.
Yeah.
Michelle says, don't roast your chicken, pressure cook it. Same thing, you see.
Ooh.
Stuff it with lemons and onions. Cook it in 250 ml of water with lemon juice and turmeric. Pressure cook for 30 minutes and then let the pressure drop naturally. Your chicken will fall to pieces and the juice makes the most amazing stock.
Sounds great, but crucially again...
But you like the crispy
no
skin?
No crispy chicken skin. I'm afraid for me that's a deal breaker, but
Anne says, my mum always rubbed some butter into the chicken, wrapped it in foil and cooked it upside down.
Yeah.
Upside down?
Yeah, because the logic is all the juice flows to the
Into the breast.
which is
Oh,
the
I
most...
see.
And then you flip it at the end and brown it. See, that's a good idea.
And then for the last 15 or 20 minutes, she took the foil off and then let the skin crisp up. Everybody's got their own way of doing it,
Good idea.
haven't they?
Yeah. I'm loving it. There was one that called my Eston Blumenthal. He soaks it in brine overnight and then roasts it for 4 hours at 90. 4 hours.
Right.
And then gives it a 15-minute blast at the maximum your oven can possibly go to crisp it off. And I could have cooked 4 chicken in that time.
Yeah, but he is Eston Blumenthal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty good at, he knows his stuff, doesn't he? He knows his onions, I was going to say. I would imagine he knows how to roast a good chicken. But there you are. If you've got a special way that you've always done, or maybe, you were taught by your mum or your gran how to roast the perfect chicken, do share, won't you, please? Because we all need to know.
Yeah, we do. I'm getting starving now. OK, let's move on to more serious matters, because Rishi Sunak is set to pour millions into a carbon capture project in the North Sea, hoping to outflank Labour on oil and gas, whilst creating 21,000 new jobs.
The Prime Minister is going to meet energy bosses this week to lay out his plans for energy security in Britain. And this comes as net zero and ULEZ face increasing scrutiny.
We're joined now in the studio by senior market strategist Mike Ingram. Good morning to you, Mike. I hope you enjoyed our chat there about chicken recipes.
I know, I've got a powerful hunger now.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. But in terms of hunger, we have a hunger to solve our energy crisis. Lots of tough talk today. Grant Shapps is saying we need that Labour, the lights will go out under Labour because they're choking North Sea oil drilling sites. Rishi Sunak saying he's on the side of the motorists. But we don't really have any clear strategy of what this energy portfolio is going to even look like. What do you think we should do for energy sovereignty in the UK?
Well, I think your observation's entirely correct. I mean, what has been released seems to be very long on rhetoric and extremely short on detail. And, beyond one or two, should we say, trophy projects like this carbon capture project that has been talked to, it might be like a sort of a net zero. There's a levelling up sort of thing. Is like, yes, we've got this odd project, bung a bit of cash up north or whatever. But there's no... It's all tactics and no strategy. But what's our starting point? Our starting point, we haven't built a nuclear reactor in the UK since 1995. We're paying about 60% more than the European average wholesale electricity prices. We are saddled with a net zero project, which, amongst other things, is going to deliver things like heat pumps, which are unaffordable and completely impractical for many of the people lower down on the income scale. And we're taxing our oil and gas industry, which has been mentioned in this, at 75%, and now you want to invest in it. So for me, it's very difficult to see strategy among that press release. It looks like a bit of a mess, a bit of a crowd pleaser during the quiet summer months. And, I question just what's of anything of substance which is actually going to come out of
Well, I
this.
suppose anything that says it's going to create 21,000 jobs certainly is a crowd pleaser, as you've just suggested. We'll hear more about it because I think the Prime Minister's popping up to Aberdeen. I don't know if he's going on a helicopter, but he's popping up to Aberdeen to announce it properly tomorrow. Can you explain to me what is a carbon capture scheme? What are they going to be doing? Is it storage?
Yes, effectively. So I mean, one of the things which comes into carbon capture, for instance, is things like planting forests in order to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So the idea is, yes, we're burning fossil fuels maybe, and that's releasing CO2, and then we're going to plant some more trees, and that's going to suck it back up again. But it is actually carbon capture. The whole area is actually quite exciting because there are new technologies coming through which allow a diverse, dare I say the word, number of ways of actually taking CO2 and other unpleasant gases out of the atmosphere.
So this will involve taking CO2 that's being created from other schemes elsewhere in the country, piping it up to Aberdeen, where it will be stored in some way or used.
Well, again, we don't know the details.
I know a bit about this for my sins. So some of the technology mooted is, you say, for example, at Whitehaven, there's planning permission has been granted for a new coal mine. Huge controversy about that. But they're saying coal mines can change. So, for example, you can feed oxygen in. When that coal is burnt, the carbon is captured. It's then injected underground into aquifers. So areas of underground porous rock, and it's stored there ad infinitum. It's expensive, it's laborious, it's exciting, it sounds sexy, but in terms of the metrics, it's really, really expensive.
Yeah.
And surely what we should be doing is just having a balanced portfolio that's not at the mercy of zealotry, it's at the mercy of today's front page of the Express. Soaring gas bills once again this winter. People want affordability, not endless talk about sustainability, which is becoming palpably expensive.
Yeah, I couldn't have put that better myself. I mean, for instance, on gas, we got, virtually no gas storage in this country. 9 days. In Germany, it's 90 days. In France, it's 100 days. In the Netherlands, it's 120 days. So we are, just on that one issue, largely sort of exposed to volatile short-term gas prices. We can't store it. Effectively, we store gas elsewhere in Europe, and of course they're going to get first dibs on supply.
But gas storage, again, the Labour Party are making hay about the fact that the Tories closed a gas storage depot. But the fact of the matter is, Mike, it's all fair and well having a storage depot, but where do we get it from? Where are we extracting it from? Are we storing gas that we import, or can we finally accept we need to be extracting more of our own gas via Shell? Energy sovereignty is about being dependent on what we produce ourselves, not what we import from South America.
Yeah, and of course the current government did a U-turn on fracking, didn't they, within the last year or so? So yeah, I mean, again, it's all tactics and no strategy. A lot of these things go back decades. I mean, the lack of gas storage infrastructure, for instance, goes back decades. I mean, the issue I mentioned earlier in terms of no nuclear power stations being built goes back decades. So for one party to point the finger at another and say, well, it's all about this or it's all about Brexit or whatever, I think
it's never that simple.
It's just mudslinging, and it trivialises the very profound issues which the UK faces in terms of, security of supply and also affordability of supply.
On the issue of nuclear, which I think is really exciting, people think about massive plants like Sellafield or even things like Ukraine, but in actual fact, we now have much smaller, and these can be built quickly, and they can be located quickly. Surely that's a common sense approach.
Yeah, small modular reactors, I think, is what you're referring to.
How long does it take to build?
Well, it can be done in 3 years, within 3 years. Yeah. But, if you look at Hinkley C, which we're still ploughing ahead with even though the wholesale price agreed with EDF, who's building it, it's over double the current wholesale price. I mean, that might come online in, I think the latest date is 2028, September 2028.
Whereas even if it were temporary, building the smaller nuclear reactors to get us through a period where clearly we're hard up, basically, at the moment. We just haven't got enough money to do everything.
100%.
It would get us through short term, at least, while we maybe encouraged other greener, sustainable ways.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, going back to, I think, previous commentary, we've got taxes in the UK at a 70-year high. The money is being raised from the taxpayer. Where's it all going? Because, it looks like, just every day people are encountering potholes in the road, and yet we're, saying, oh, carbon capture, we'll bung a few million here and bung a few million there. And let's not forget as well that in all of this, a lot of the renewable sector are doing extremely well out of this.
Well, that's right.
Because we're looking at sort of marginal pricing. Effectively, energy is priced off gas, which certainly in this environment is relatively expensive. And so even those producers that are producing very cheaply on renewables, the consumer isn't generally, and they're not seeing that. And actually changing the pricing forward was something that was discussed under Liz Truss. That seems to have died a death over the last couple of months.
Is this Aberdeenshire plan a waste of money, then, do you think, at the moment?
Possibly. Yeah. Wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, no. Because it sounds good, it's going to create 21,000 jobs, but building the nuclear reactors you've just been describing would also create jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of practical
and solve
things.
The energy security, well, at least partly solve the energy security problem.
Yes.
And if we had some joined-up thinking, say, for example, most people might say, if you had a small nuclear reactor in your area, oh, that's a bit scary, but you get half-price electricity for life, that could be a game-changer. Yeah. So we could add a bit of carrot and not so much stick, not so much of a guilt trip, and have an actual strategy and a solution. The game is wide open. I just wish they would come up with a clear strategy and give us a voting choice at the ballot box.
Exactly. But what we tend to get as slogans and headlines and, as I say, a bit of eye candy, as it were.
Well, don't you think you're also getting... I mean, Rishi Sunak is pictured on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph looking very confident. But the picture you get mostly of Keir Starmer, of Rishi Sunak, of various ministers, is one of confusion. I mean, they actually don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I see very little evidence of any real new ideas other than political posturing. And unfortunately, so it's a bit of, for me personally, it feels like a bit of a Hobson's choice in terms of, you know, policy, because there is so little real policy actually being presented to the electorate. And you know, some of the more controversial issues, such as, I mean, ULEZ has obviously become, you know, shall we say, weaponised over the last you know, week or two. But again, you know, had Uxbridge not gone the other way. Then presumably this wouldn't be discussed at all, and who's to say it's still going to be discussed even in 2 or 3 months' time?
Mike Ingram, excellent analysis there, and I think you're dead right. They just react to what happens last week, and they seem to change their strategy, you know, on what Uxbridge. Oh, let's do a U-turn.
Yeah,
we don't want
suddenly
U-turns.
change our minds because that's a vote winner.
Just give us clarity.
That's what it feels like, anyway, isn't it?
Excellent, thanks, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you very much.
OK, let's move on now to our next story.
And police forces are promising to investigate every crime. Wow.
Yeah, thanks.
Because ministers are calling on them to improve their rates for solving so-called lower-level offences.
Yeah, the Home Office's data shows most charge rates for common crimes are lower in 2023 compared with 2015.
Well, joining us now, former Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Mike, thank you very much for joining us. I said wow because when we first saw the headline, I think a couple of days ago, you know, that police are actually going to start solving crimes, you think, well, isn't that their job? But clearly it's more complicated than that. They haven't been even looking at certain crimes. Is that true?
That is very true, Anne, and we've had a situation. I did a Freedom of Information Act request and found out that 70% of the Metropolitan Police hadn't arrested anybody in 1 year. It's quite incredible. You know, I could arrest, you know, the most I ever did was 4 in 1 day, and officers have just been focusing away from crime. Now, there has been some issues like mental health where the police have sort of picked up the mess that's left behind by people, other organisations aren't dealing with it. But a lot of this is focus from the top. Senior officers focusing on the wrong things, allowing officers to dance the Macarena or whatever other nonsense, and they're not on the streets catching criminals and making people feel safe.
You know, Mike, I think what really sticks in the craw of the public is what the police determine to be low-level crime. For example, 6% of burglaries are currently solved. We've got 30,000 unsolved muggings. Meanwhile, 37,000 call-outs in the Metropolitan Police area alone for mental health cases. Like, since when did the police service become a social service? Meanwhile, 120,000 non-crime hate incidents have been issued. This is police policing our tweets and not the streets. Isn't this just a case of the police completely losing track of what the priorities are?
I'm with you 100%. I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective. I saw my job as to help the little people, the people who they don't want their house burgled. They want to feel safe in the house. They shouldn't be mugged in the street. They should be safe to walk to school or work. And the police chiefs have completely lost this. And if you look at them, when I joined the Met, about half of the police chiefs were people like me. They're ex-military. None of the top officers now are like that. They're all university graduates who've got a certain agenda. And their concern are things like diversity, how many black or how many lesbian or how many this or how many that they're recruited. I've never known a member of the public say to me, I didn't like the sex, colour or sexuality of an officer who came to help me. No one cares. What they care about is they get a poor service and they don't feel safe. The Home Secretary could stop all this today. Like you say, it's all posturing. If the Home Secretary said there are no more diversity targets, your only target is to reduce crime and catch criminals, and then we're going to get a grip of the courts and stuff and say, well, you've got to put people in jail, then people would be safer on the streets. But it's, of course, this has come out because the Liberal Democrats in particular are targeting this and showing that the Tories have failed over all these years to grip crime. It's only because it becomes a vote winner, like the ULEZ scheme and whatever else, that they seem to take any notice. It's quite incredible.
I mean, it's great that we're talking about it, and it's certainly great that the police are wanting to address it. But, I mean, they're hard pushed at the moment. So it's all very well for chief constables to say, we are going to pledge to investigate every crime report that's got a reasonable lead. But where are they going to get the time and the money to do that? Are they going to get more police officers? How are they going to achieve it?
Well, firstly, what they've done in the Met, for example, is they've said, they're not going to attend mental health incidents unless there's a serious risk to life or some crime taking place. So that's time freed up. They're also doing things, a brand new scheme in the Met where they're getting shopkeepers to electronically transfer CCTV, the ridiculous nonsense we've had of officers having to attend and burn a disc. Who does that these days? You send it on WhatsApp or something like that. So that can be done. But just to give you a personal example, my expertise is catching people with images from CCTV or other sources. And I've captured thousands of criminals and linked prolific criminals together. When I offer this service, when I say to police forces, I can really help you, I really want to help because I think it's really bad, they come up with excuses. On the same day that the Essex police were raiding a pub for 6 gollywogs, I received a message from Essex police saying they didn't have the resources to deal with CCTV images correctly. And that just sums up the focus of the police, that one day, that email they received and what they were actually doing on that day.
Well, Mike Neville, sobering words there, but thank you for your expertise this morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Well, it's a great message from the chief constables that they're going to do this, but will we, in a few months' time, feel the difference?
Well, I doubt it. I mean, it's just exasperating to hear that an expert with proven track record, like Mike, isn't even wanted. They'd rather just be combing around on Facebook and Twitter looking for grievances. When we saw footage this week of co-ops being raided by gangs, sweeping stuff off the shelves, security guards powerless to stop. The police aren't attending in 7 out of 10 of those call-outs. It feels to me like shoplifting is becoming de facto legal. We're losing the plot.
Tell you what is a crime that may have been solved by CCTV, and that's the theft of Twiglet the dog. And we're going to be talking more about dog napping coming up.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Watry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest where that rain will be arriving, turning much greyer skies, turning damp as well as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures held back underneath this cloud and rain, but you might squeeze the 21, 23 degrees Celsius across parts of eastern Scotland and England during the afternoon. That rain is going to continue to spread its way eastwards this evening. Could turn quite persistent for Northern Ireland, parts of northern England. Some spray on roads is certainly possible for if you are travelling later on today. And then much greyer skies throughout tonight, with those outbreaks of rain continuing, feeling quite humid and sticky as well, not dropping much below 16, 17 degrees Celsius. But for northern areas of Scotland, actually a little bit of a chill in the air first thing on Monday, might drop into mid-single figures in those rural valleys. And it is northern Scotland that's going to see the best of the sunshine throughout Monday, light winds as well, so a relatively pleasant day here. Elsewhere, pretty drab and grey with some outbreaks of rain throughout. Some brighter spells trying to poke their way through, but it is still going to feel relatively humid if that brightness arrives. Temperatures climb to highs of around 22 degrees Celsius. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. This is Breakfast with Anne and Martin.
Thanks for getting in touch. About roasting chickens. Hopefully, maybe you're going to do one for a Sunday lunch. Do you do a traditional Sunday roast?
I absolutely love a roast, yeah. I like to spend hours and hours on it. I like to have a glass of wine while I'm doing it. I like the theatre of it.
Yes.
Get all the family around the table. For me, it's the most important
and you
meal.
put, and you delegate, don't you? You put different children in charge of the sprouts.
Yeah. I absolutely love Sunday roast. So it's essential.
And everybody always comes up with their own theories as to you're not doing the roast potatoes right.
Yeah, of course, everyone's an expert.
Yeah, and you say, hang on a minute, who's in the kitchen? I always have to actually appoint somebody to be the chef for that. And they are the boss. Because otherwise you have rows breaking out about how you roast potatoes and things like that.
Well, we certainly got them going on.
How do you roast a chicken? That's what we're asking.
In terms of that, and we've had some great stuff coming, because don't forget, I'm going to cook the best recipe, in my opinion, today. Keith has thrown a real curveball in here. Cook it slowly at 100 degrees and then crisp the skin with a blowtorch. But brine it first. A lot of people are saying brine it. Heston Blumenthal said brine it. That means soak it overnight in your fridge in water, which can have salt and sugar, or indeed a bit of lemon juice or anything else you like added. So it absorbs the moisture.
So it's got more moisture than it has naturally.
Right.
And then you smother it in jam and put it in the oven.
Which seals
One of our lovely viewers suggested jam.
Yeah, which seals the skin and retains the moisture. See, it's a science. I'm loving this.
But I think you can get too scientific as well. Can't you? In fact, Roger in Birmingham makes that point. He says, don't bother, just go to KFC. Or Bill says, easy, go to Waitrose and take home a delicious rotisserie chicken.
They're all good, though.
I must say, I've done that in the past.
Yeah. I like those ones you get from Tesco, just in a bag, just pick them up. See, I like chicken in any way it comes. I just don't think there's any such thing as a bad chicken. I like chicken nuggets, I like all of it. But I'm really interested in these recipes. They get me salivating.
Can't bear chicken at all, but my boys do, so we've always...
like it?
Well, mostly a vegetarian.
Okay, of course, yeah.
And I don't like chicken at all.
Yeah.
But, what does Sharon say? She says, pop it in a roasting pan, smothered in butter, and a sprinkle of rock salt. Don't cover in foil, because that will steam it.
Yeah, see, that's a big dividing point.
Lots of people put that on for a bit and then take it off so the skin hardens.
To foil or not to foil, that is the question. I mean, I like to blast it first and then foil it. Some people slow cook it with foil, then take the foil off and then blast it. When do you put the foil on, at the start or the end? You see, it's a controversial topic.
Jax in Derbyshire says, I cook a whole chicken quite often, not just for a roast dinner. I use it for work, sandwiches, and maybe a pasta dish or a stir-fry during the week. I mean, that's true. If you buy a bigger one than you really need for one lunch, a chicken can keep going all week.
And
there's nothing better, really, is there?
I love chicken leftovers.
Yeah.
Do a big bird, have the best cuts. My kids like the breast, and then I tear a leg off in the week, and I like to chop bits up, whack it in a stir-fry, whack it in a pasta bake. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It is. It's very, very, what do you call it? Very...
Moory.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the word, yeah. Now, shall we talk about this amazing little dog who has sparked, I don't know, a debate and has got us everybody a little bit anxious for our own pet dogs. It's a dog that sparked a nationwide hunt with CCTV footage showing him being taken by a thief who had posed as a delivery driver and managed to get into the house.
Yeah, really disturbing footage. 16-month-old Twiglet was taken from millionaire Jamie Vindis's home in Essex on Wednesday. Fortunately, the family received a tip-off from someone who paid £700 for the pet to give it back to its owners.
And Jamie's wife, Jo Vindis, spoke earlier in the week to GB News' Mark Longhurst and Pip Thompson about the ordeal.
The alarm went off, so our neighbours very kindly went to have a look. So we knew that the door had been smashed in, so my husband watched then, the camera back on his phone so he could see it happen, and that's when we found out. So obviously that was devastating. They're quite desirable little dogs. Anyone who's got one will know they're very characterful. But she's lovely. And unfortunately, I think a lot of times it goes unnoticed and people don't hear about it. Yeah. So hopefully this will shine a little bit of a light on that. It's a horrible crime. I have to say, having the security camera, that's helped us as well, because without that footage, I don't think she would be back with us today. Yeah. It's definitely all thanks to, the coverage and how many people sort of took the story up. And, we're a nation of dog lovers, so obviously people watching that, it's horrifying. So, but I think without it going sort of as viral, going viral, we would never have got it back. I think, it's definitely thanks to that, and thanks to our amazing neighbours who, really sort of spread the word, and very great.
Oh.
We are a nation of dog lovers, aren't we? That's why we're talking about it so much. But I do think it's alarming people because, you can't be with your dog 24 hours a day. So what should you do? Well, earlier we spoke to Pete Wedderburn, who's a veterinary surgeon and an animal welfare journalist. He said he was really upset as well when he saw the footage.
It's a dreadful situation. And it is surprisingly common. In 2020, there were around 2,000 dog thefts. That's like about 7 or 8 dogs a day being stolen. So it's not just something that's a one-off on social media. It's something which is unfortunately quite common. You do need to context about, like, there's something like 10 million pets in the UK. So like 2,000 out of 10 million still isn't very many, but it still is enough to make people certainly they should be aware of this, and they should take some steps to make sure their pets are safe.
So what can you do? I mean, most people like to give their animal, if they maybe have a dog flap, the run of the garden during the day while you're off at work or something like that. Is that something we should stop doing and actually keep our dogs more under lock and key while we're away?
Well, since the start of COVID, the price of dogs went up hugely. And that means is that a lot of people are now aware that a dog could be worth, as much as a very expensive camera or expensive phone, or even a wallet stuffed with cash. And because of that, a lot of the burglars are aware that this is well worth stealing. So yes, it does mean that we should be far more aware of the security of our pets. Just as you wouldn't leave a wallet stuffed with cash in your garden, well, you shouldn't leave your pets unobserved in your garden. And I think just generally increasing security around your pet makes absolute sense. I think there's huge pleasure for dogs going out through dog flaps and the freedom they have to do that. But you should do things like make sure that your garden is secure, make sure that, you know, that there's a locked gate at the front, make sure that you have CCTV on areas approaching your back door so you can actually see what's happening. All of those things make good sense.
Yeah, Pete, I mean, we're talking about this story now, of course, because that footage has emerged, so maybe a common sense solution for a lot of pet owners is to fit a camera where their dog kind of sleeps, just like we're seeing now, because we're here talking about this because of this footage. It's what that's got, that emotional response. But there are some really interesting figures here. 6 dogs a day, Pete, are now stolen nationwide. London, unsurprisingly perhaps, is the dog theft capital, followed by Kent and then West Yorkshire. But I was really surprised about the breeds, the types of dogs who are being stolen. They're not all like Twiglet. They're not all small dogs you can easily carry. American Bulldogs, there's been a 350% boom in their theft. Staffies, a 610% boom. And French Bulldogs, big dogs, a 31% increase. Why are people going for those types of dogs? You think they'd be the last dog you want to steal. They're massive.
Yes, but they're also extremely valuable. That whole world of breeding, I suppose, large muscular dogs has become really very lucrative. And so, again, people look at that and they say, those puppies are worth a fortune. Therefore, if I can steal one of the dogs, they will also be worth a fortune. And often they are quite actually good-natured one-to-one. They have a reputation for being highly aggressive, but they're, you know, often they're really lovely dogs. And dogs are so trusting that it's surprisingly easy to call one to you and to go away with them. And so that takes me on to the next thing, that you should never leave your dog unattended in public areas. It's very common for people to leave their dog outside a shop just for 5 minutes, maybe while they're going to get something, but it lays your dog wide open to opportunistic thieves. You know, they can just take the lead and walk away. Also, don't leave your dog in the car. People know not to do that for reasons to keep the dog healthy, you know, because dogs can overheat in cars very easily. But as well as that, even if the dog's not going to overheat, again, a passing person would be able just to break into the car quickly, take your dog and go off. So you should never leave your dog unattended in public.
We were just talking there during that bit about how you can't even fathom how scummy a person has to be to go into a person's house and take their pet.
Yeah, to me, it just transcends anything that's remotely acceptable. You kind of understand a phone, OK, it's an inanimate object.
Yeah.
It's a thing, but to take something living and to trade in its life, committing guaranteed misery to its owners. I just cannot, for the life of me, ever imagine getting into the mindset of somebody who would nick a dog or a cat or any pet. It's just inhumane. It's horrible.
And sadly, you were making the point that some of the most stolen dogs are the ones you would least think saleable.
Yeah.
But we had a message from Kevin in Ripon who says a horrible reality is that many dogs are stolen for dog fighting.
Yeah.
And a horrible aspect is that some dogs are used for warm-up acts.
Yeah, Pam and
Essex. That is revolting.
That's it. Pam and Essex echoing that. A lot of bulldogs are stolen for dog baiting.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
So these are it's even worse, to take a dog from a kind living home and then to turn it into a dog performing functions like that. It just beggars belief.
Let's cheer ourselves up by having a look at some of your dogs, though. You've been very kind and sent in pictures. Sue sent this picture of her dog, Finley.
Beautiful.
Oh, he's beautiful. What sort of a breed is that?
So one very
what a really beautiful hairdo.
Next is Heather. She says, this is Bobby, our gorgeous little rescue dog. He is 5 months old and he's the most loving dog in the world.
And I'll bet he really appreciates being rescued by you. And Dorothy says, this is Buddy from Northwich in Cheshire. He's a Parsons Russell Terrier. Is that different from a Jack Russell Terrier?
Yeah.
And he's a maniac, she says.
I like the kind of wistful, stare into the distance. Look at this one. Rich in Telford sent this picture of his Scrappy, the Jack Russell Terrier, and that is a tongue. That is a dog that likes a pant.
Scrappy.
Beautiful.
Paul and Linda in Shepshire say, this is Seth. Well, that's a lovely name.
Yeah.
Seth, our 6-year-old Sealyham Terrier. Isn't he beautiful?
Yeah, what a great pair of chops that dog's
What
got.
a look.
Gorgeous.
Oh, thank you so much for sending in your pictures. And I have to tell you that we've got thousands more coming in already. I think it's creating a bit of a problem backstage. But we will try and show whatever pictures we can. Up next, we'll be looking through Sunday's newspapers. You're watching Breakfast on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point.
And action.
Sergeant Green, my superstar panel, they're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views, and often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Hello again, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin.
Yeah, joining us this morning in the studio to go through the papers is the writer and journalist Emma Wolfe and the broadcaster legend Peter Price. Looking forward to this. It was very lively the last hour.
Peter this morning.
Yeah, Peter, you've been promoted.
Only me mother called me Peter.
Yeah, Peter. Well, the last hour you definitely had your Weetabix, so let's have another good ding-dong this time. Emma, let's kick off with you. Oh, here we go again.
Here we go.
COVID-19 cases rising in the UK.
I'm sick of COVID, but it's another way to keep us under control, to keep us in our pens, put a mask on, be quiet, don't leave your home.
That's a ruthless statement.
It's the truth, I'm afraid. COVID is on the rise, a 30% increase in July. Lots of reasons why I don't believe this is even significant. But anyway, this is still the cases are still way below the cases recorded at the start of the pandemic. The point is, at the moment, this was relying on self-reporting. Loads of people aren't self-reporting. This is relying on the fact that there isn't free testing routinely available for anyone, so loads of people aren't testing. People are getting coughs and colds. People are staying indoors because we're having such an appalling summer. And apparently, COVID is going to, guess what? It's going to surge up again this winter.
Is that what the Telegraph is saying?
It's amazing, isn't it, actually?
But it's interesting. I heard a report that Boots are saying the sales of the testing kits have gone right through the roof.
Well, they've gone up 33%, but that's also, Pete, because now free tests aren't available. Do you remember you used to have boxes and boxes sort of being
Which I
thrown
have.
at you, handed out?
Which I still have.
I still have.
Yeah.
Oh, I did a COVID test once. It took about 17 hours to work out all the bits that I had to put in my ear and put in my nose and mix up. So I just thought, after that, I'm not doing it.
All right, that's a complete downer. Pete, let's move on to your story.
Just before we finish that, I've just had my injection, so I'm still having my COVID
So you've
boosters.
just had another
I've just had another
That's
booster.
the other thing. People are not... The uptake of boosters is a lot lower. But you're still doing boosters?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes,
So
at my
which part of
age.
immunity do you not understand? When they told me that my jabs were giving me immunity and then they started asking me for my 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th booster, I just started thinking, well, hang on a minute, what was the immunity bit?
So, you see, I do a flu jab every year.
Hang on, they didn't say the vaccines would give you immunity. The vaccines give you protection.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting into a COVID thing.
I know.
My story. I'm sick of the dogs today on your show, so I'm changing it to Seagulls.
Psycho Seagulls.
Because they'll talk about this as much. But this is a serious story. It's a Psycho Seagulls attack up to 41 Scots, and they're in hospital. Over 8 years it's gone.
They've been attacked by seagulls.
By seagulls. It actually, Anne, is a problem.
It is a problem.
That's why I wanted to talk about the story. It's causing damage to the economy in cities. They are, and especially holiday resorts. They are getting more and more violent, more and more daring. And I don't know if people know, but there's certain cities, and I think it's all over the country, where they have hawks out at night culling the seagulls, which has got to be done. But they have to do it at night because people get upset. But the seagulls are scary. They're outside the Playhouse in Liverpool. There's a place where the seagulls are, and some people go and feed them. But they will attack anyone that's eating. They do not care.
Now, is it our fault because we create too much waste, which we leave around in our cities? But also, you know, we eat in the streets. We didn't used to do that.
Yeah.
Is it actually our fault or the seagulls?
That's interesting. I just had one swoop on a sausage I was eating once, and I was very upset by
That's the
it.
thing, in coastal towns, they're very hungry, they're very aggressive.
Yeah. They're very
So,
aggressive.
yes, people are sitting on the beach eating their fish and chips, but that's what people do on beaches, you know, on holiday.
But you're all right. So when we see, like, sort of these psycho rats that we hear about in places like Birmingham, they simply go where there's food, where there's refuse. And we have so much fast food in bins or on the streets. They say we eat while we're walking. But we did this story before on Breakfast. It went nuts. People are really getting attacked by these things.
And
they
also,
compare to like the feathered
But they
muffler.
actually seriously are violent. Yeah.
Boxes in central London are a real problem. I don't know, probably the same around the country.
Oh,
they seem to be attacking bins. Are these animals hungrier than they used to be? Did they used to have a food? I mean,
no, I think we're more wasteful.
But have you all
have
you also noticed? I from when I was younger do not remember seagulls being as big as they are. They were seagulls. They weren't. These things. These walk alongside you, going, "Are you finished with that or what?"
Yeah.
It's just they frighten me.
They're like flying dogs. Some of them. They're that big.
Flying dogs. You had to get the dogs in to get more pictures in, didn't you?
It becomes more and more like the movie, doesn't it? With the birds, because they come from a different dimension to us and fly in your face.
I can't believe you mentioned that film. When that film came out, I actually had more respect for budgies than I've ever had in my life.
Yes, maybe we should all watch it and have more respect for birds.
Right, from the sublime to the ridiculous, Amber, we're now going on to HS2, because guess what? They've finally worked out that it's unachievable.
That it's not a great idea, this multi-billion... I think the word is beleaguered, this train line is beleaguered, beset by all sorts of trouble. I seem to be the ranter this morning. Anyway, HS2, guess
You're doing
what?
well.
It's not all going according to plan, apparently. This is the watchdog is saying that in terms of project definition, schedule, budget, quality, benefits and delivery, i.e. everything, HS2 is in trouble.
And how much does it cost?
Multi-billion.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think anyone wants to put a figure on it, but it'll be billions and billions.
And of course,
They've got
going to be
all sorts-
100 billion at least.
Yeah. We hated it because it wasn't coming to Liverpool.
Yeah.
It was not coming anywhere near Liverpool.
And the first phase, or the first two phases at the moment, London to Birmingham and then on to Crewe in Cheshire, that's all sorts of problems. I don't know if you've been past Euston in London recently, but they want to. They're wondering about stripping back the Euston terminal, and that would result in £1 billion overspent. I mean, these are billions of.
And someone's making a lot of money out of this.
Yeah, and it's one of those issues. I campaigned for months in the West Midlands, and this issue came up time and time again.
Or to change
I campaigned in the area, and when we asked people about this, you could barely find a single resident in the West Midlands that wanted this. It seems to be something that business leaders want, or people that ferry between London and Birmingham 10 minutes quicker. In terms of the punters, they had no interest.
Such a small amount of time, you know, for the benefits that you know that it reduces that journey. And yet, in the north and across the country, and especially across east to west, you need transport, improvements in infrastructure, but not in this one.
But the train from Liverpool to London now is about 2.5 hours. When I was younger, it was 5 hours.
Yeah.
By the way, with the H2, I always remember when Scylla was alive, bless her, they wanted to take a piece of her garden. She was not a happy lady. Not a happy lady at all.
Did you have to give it up?
Sadly, she passed away, so...
Before it happened?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Let's move on to your story here, Pete, and you're pulling us back to Corrieland. There's a
I am indeed.
gay wedding.
Yeah, I'm a Coronation Street fan, fanatical fan, and I've never missed an episode since day one.
You are
Black and white.
joking.
I've never missed an episode. And Albert Tatlott and Ina Sharples and Minnie Cordwell will turn in their graves at a gay wedding. Joking apart, it's a fabulous thing.
So this is
there's
the
a gay
first
wedding.
time there's going to be a gay wedding on Coronation
Billy and
Street.
Paul,
I'm surprised it's waited this long for a gay wedding, isn't it?
It's been a build-up, and he's a vicar in it. So, and Paul, bless him, is very poorly in it. He's got an illness. And I was sadly not invited to the wedding, but I will dress accordingly when the episode is out. But I wanted to mention it because that's how it's changed so much.
Yes, it has.
Soaps have come up, or ongoing dramas, as they're called these days. And I think it's great that they're having a gay wedding. But yes, you're right.
It's surprising it hasn't happened already.
Long time coming.
Yeah, it has been a long time coming.
Emma Wolf, Pete Price. Pete, not Peter Price. Let's leave it there. Thank you. We'll see you again in an hour's time.
And we'll move on to another contentious subject, and that's how to see your doctor. It can take 2 weeks just to make an appointment. That's if you're lucky sometimes with your GP. And once you're there, it's over in a flash, with the average consultation lasting much less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, when rushed through the appointment, many of us are left struggling to remember vital details. So, how can we get the most from our GP appointment?
So let's learn more from a GP. Dr. Veena Babu, who joins us. Hello there, it's lovely to see you. Sadly, you're not in the studio with us this morning. But,
Morning, thank you.
If you've got, 6 minutes usually with your GP, how to make the most of it? Are there any particular tips?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what you said is really right, because people have waited all this time and they come in and they do forget things. They do think, oh, I can't remember or I can't find something. So let's use technology to aid us, right? So what I would advise is, before you go to your doctor's appointment, make some notes on your phone or on a piece of paper. This could involve some photos of the symptoms or the rash, so we can actually assess how things may have changed over time. So a simple list of what has happened, how long, the duration, so when did it all start? What have you tried already? You may have tried painkillers or something else at home. Does anything make it better or worse? Some things are better, for instance, when you lie down or sit up, position can kind of change things. Is there anything specific you'd like from this consultation? What kind of support you have? Or if you're not supported, because then that can help us direct you to the right support. And what's really on your mind in terms of concerns? So if you just make a point of these things and just have it on your phone, you can comfortably come in and we can make the most of that consultation.
And I guess the key point is, Veena, if you walk through the door, be aware that the clock is ticking. So that nice chit-chat about the weather, that kind of small talk, that's actually eating into your time. So it's about maximising every second you're in there, isn't it?
It is, but I have to confess that little chit-chat is the human part of the interaction that makes the job that much more enjoyable. I see patients that I've seen for years and I enjoy asking them how their children are or how they're doing. And I think you can't take away that human aspect, but if you have the symptoms and the problem in a concise manner, you can make the most out of it, absolutely.
I always wonder as well if there isn't a little bit of homework to be done before you go to see the GP. In other words, the thing I fear most is the GP saying to me, well, take a couple of aspirin, and if it's still a problem, then come back next week, because it's difficult enough to get the first appointment. So maybe do some sort of ordinary, sane, sensible things first. Try a couple of paracetamols or something and see if that helps. Try various other things that might be recommended for whatever condition before you come to see the GP, so you can say, I've tried that a week ago, I tried that 2 weeks ago, it's still a problem.
And you're absolutely right. And our community is very, very smart these days. Patients come in with their Google research, the papers they have found on the topics, and say, this is what the internet says, this is what I think it is, what do you think it is? So it's almost kind of like a discussion that we have with the evidence on the internet and everything. And, you know, the internet makes everything accessible these days. So you're absolutely right. If you're unwell, I would say make sure you're looking up things from a trusted site like the NHS site or patient.co.uk, just so most symptoms don't end up in kind of cancer as you look up on Google. So as long as you're looking up your symptoms on a trusted site, do your research, definitely try some things. But if you have a symptom that you want to see your GP for, come and see us. We're there for you.
And in terms of, you talked about that human contact, how important to you is that face-to-face contact rather than just going down the route of doing Zoom calls?
It's absolutely important. And, you know, you open this meeting with, oh, it's a shame we don't have you in the studio, because we know the energy of us being that person, you know, face to face. It's the same aspect, right? So for consultations that may require simple things that don't need to waste your time, like extension of a fit note or, you know, just renewing your medication, we can do that over the phone or on a virtual consultation. But if it's a new symptom, like a breast lump or something you're worried about in terms of your mental health, or you're worried about your spouse or your child, we would like to see you in person, because there are some personal things and human aspects of a consultation that just can't be virtualized.
Absolutely. Well, it's lovely to have had a consultation with you this morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Veena Babu there. Do stick with us. We've got plenty more to come throughout the morning. Right now, we're heading towards 8 o'clock and the weather.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What was that, sorry? Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Vaughtry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest where that rain will be arriving, turning much greyer skies, turning damp as well as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures held back underneath this cloud and rain, but you might squeeze the 21, 23 degrees Celsius across parts of eastern Scotland and England during the afternoon. That rain is going to continue to spread its way eastwards this evening. Could turn quite persistent for Northern Ireland, parts of northern England. Some spray on roads is certainly possible for if you are travelling later on today. And then much greyer skies throughout tonight, with those outbreaks of rain continuing. Feeling quite humid and sticky as well, not dropping much below 16, 17 degrees Celsius. But for northern areas of Scotland, actually a little bit of a chill in the air first thing on Monday. Might drop into mid-single figures in those rural valleys. And it is northern Scotland that's going to see the best of the sunshine throughout Monday. Light winds as well, so a relatively pleasant day here. Elsewhere, pretty drab and grey with some outbreaks of rain throughout. Some brighter spells trying to poke their way through, but it is still going to feel relatively humid if that brightness arrives. Temperatures climb to highs of around 22 degrees Celsius. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com? You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Sunday, the 30th of July. Today, North Sea oil could be making a comeback. Rishi Sunak is going to announce millions in funding for a new carbon capture project in Scotland, and that could create 21,000 jobs.
And Harry and Meghan have been urged not to move from the celebrity enclave in Montecito in California, or face the biggest security risk of their lives.
Do you know how to get the perfect roast chicken? We're going to be putting your questions, or at least your ideas, to a Sunday roast expert, the renowned chef and friend of the programme, Kevin Woodford.
And as always, we'll bring you the latest weather update.
Just as one low pressure clears away, another one is arriving as we head throughout today as well. Join me later for the full GB News weather forecast and what that means.
Well, it's lovely to be with you this morning. We've got a terrific programme coming up for you. Thank you for all the pictures you're sending in of your dogs. I don't know how Robin backstage is going to cope with actually getting them up so that we can show them all, but we'll do our best, I promise you. I'm Anne Diamond.
And I'm Martin Daubney, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
What do you do about cramp in your foot? I've got crampy foot.
Wiggle it.
I'm trying to wiggle it, but... Anyone got any... What is it a sign of when you get cramp?
It's a sign of sitting down for a bit too long, a deficiency of salt. Have you had any salt? It's when you've had a little sandwich.
I did have a sandwich, but I don't think I had any salt in it.
Keep wiggling. You'll be
keep
all right.
wiggling.
Yeah.
But it's what I always found astonishing about cramp is that it's not a sign of poor health or anything like that, because your best gymnasts in the world get it very badly. And tennis players particularly, you know, when they've just played Wimbledon and then they are required to go and do a sort of press conference. Yep. And I remember very famous sequences of Andy Murray, for instance, getting cramp so badly he started to disappear under the table.
And that's excessive sweating. I think it's a loss of sodium. It's a loss
it is salt.
Yeah, so isotonic loss. I think it's that, and that's why a lot of people get it. That famous FA Cup, you know, the sapping Wembley turf. Oh. It's at the end of a protracted period of exercise. I don't recall you doing a protracted.
No, I've done a protracted period of sitting on a stool.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you've got any tips for how to get rid of, it's so annoying. It's just in my foot, nowhere else.
Have a scream if you want.
No, well, all right. Well, I'll do that a bit later during a break, maybe. Shall we talk about Rishi Sunak's latest? Well, it's a sort of... Is it blatant electioneering, I wonder?
It absolutely and totally is.
He has announced that he's going to pour millions into what they call a carbon capture project in the North Sea, hoping, I suppose, to outflank Labour's ideas on oil and gas, whilst creating, and this is good news, 21,000 new jobs.
If you believe him, it is. The Prime Minister will meet energy bosses this week to lay out plans for energy security in Britain. This comes as net zero and ULEZ face increasing scrutiny.
Well, our reporter Olivia Utley is in Bexley at the moment. Olivia, do you think it's blatant electioneering, or is it a good idea, maybe, that they thought up anyway?
Well, I think it's possible that it could be both. I think it would be naive to think that Rishi Sunak doesn't have at least half an eye on next year's election. And I think this might be a classic example of the sort of wedge issue that Rishi Sunak is looking for. After those by-elections a couple of weeks ago, where the Conservatives won Uxbridge, which no one was really expecting, Rishi Sunak has decided that what he can do to try and win the next election against sort of all the odds is to find issues like ULEZ, where people just, although they might be generally supportive of Labour, can't bring themselves to vote for it because of a sort of specific local issue. Now, carbon capture in the North Sea is an issue quite like that, because although Labour has said that it is pro-carbon capture essentially is taking carbon emissions out of the atmosphere when they're released by oil and gas drilling in the North Sea, and either re-releasing them underground or reusing them for something else. So Labour has said it is pro that policy, but it has said that it's against giving out any more licences for more drilling for oil and gas in the North Sea. So how that would sort of work with a proper carbon capture project isn't clear. And of course the worry with if you sort of put a stopper on oil and gas drilling altogether in the North Sea is that lots and lots of jobs will be lost. So it sounds as though Rishi Sunak's plan is to push ahead with this, find something where he disagrees with both Keir Starmer and the SNP, because of course the SNP are anti-oil and gas drilling in the North Sea, and find a way to make people who may be keen on voting Labour or the SNP anyway, but don't want to lose their jobs, find a reason to vote Conservative. So that is probably what he's got in mind. And it probably will work quite well.
Olivia, as Bill Clinton put it, it's all about the economy, stupid. It's the front page of the Sunday Express again today. Energy bills set to soar this winter. Once again, the painful reality of our exposed energy system is meaning higher bills for customers. Grant Shapps talking tough as ever. Energy security is national security, but there's no detail at all, is there, about what the portfolio would be? They're still bickering about scrapping ULEZ. They're still saying we might do more drilling in the North Sea. What do you think is the way they should go? Is there votes? Is there a vote in offering an alternative to net zero, giving a balanced portfolio? Let's be realistic. We need fossil fuels. Let's not be so zealous about this, but actually be realistic and give people a choice.
I think the problem for the Conservatives is that although there are plenty on the backbenches and probably even in the Cabinet who would like to be saying that, who would like to be saying, hey, hang on a minute, of course we need to reduce carbon emissions, but net zero makes no sense. The problem for them and for Rishi Sunak is that the government's hands are tied really on this. Net zero is now enshrined in law, so the government has to find any ways possible to make it happen. Whether there is a little bit of wiggle room there is up for debate. One policy policy which, for example, Lord Frost, a prominent former sort of Brexiteer and very vocal Conservative, one potential suggestion he's come up with is to delay the ban on buying new petrol and diesel cars to beyond 2030. So there are sort of little areas where the Prime Minister might be able to sort of row back a little bit on the net zero policy. But whether he'll even be able to offer a sort of wholesale alternative to net zero, as many of his backbenchers and possibly many Conservative members would like, is another story.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of our viewers, John, says, if only they could agree on something, if only they could actually formulate a strategy that we could either decide whether we want to vote for it or against it. He says, I've worked on these projects for years, as well as oil, gas, nuclear and geothermal. But the uncertainty about policy by different parties makes investment very risky. Issues like energy, transport, etc. need long-term cross-party support, not flip-flopping every new government. Don't you think he's got a point?
I think he's absolutely got a point, and I think we're going to see more and more of that difficulty for investors coming up to the election, because for the next year we can expect to see Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer going head-to-head against each other, finding issues on the environment on which they disagree and sort of changing their policies accordingly, which, as our viewer says, is going to make life very, very difficult for investors. I think on the whole, what we can expect to see over the next year is a bit of a move away from net zero and green policies, because as we've seen time and time again, although when you sort of poll people or you get focus groups together, the British public are very in favour of green policies, when push comes to shove and it's actually election time, people are more concerned about the money in their pocket, particularly in the middle of the cost of living crisis, than they are about the sort of welfare of the planet in general. So I think as we get closer to the end of this election cycle, on the whole, what we can expect to see is both Labour and the Conservatives pulling away a bit from green policy. But that doesn't really help those investors that you're talking about there, because in terms of specific policy, I'm afraid it's going to be a lot more flip-flopping.
Olivia, do you think the problem here, you know, when it's all boiled down, the problem is both parties are the same? They both change their position, they both say they'll nibble away at this and that, but they don't actually offer anything concrete. And what people really care about is pounds and pence in their purses and their wallets. And all we ever really get told is that we're bad people for driving, we're bad people for having a gas boiler, you should be poorer and colder and happier. Surely there's going to be votes in offering a clear alternative. Why don't the Tories just do that?
Well, I think Rishi Sunak is sort of edging in that direction. There's an interview with him on the front of the Sunday Times today saying that he's going to order a review into LTNs, those low-traffic neighbourhoods which are causing lots and lots of people a lot of problems. Essentially, what happens is instead of the traffic flowing in all directions in all parts of a city as it normally would, the traffic is sort of redirected down high streets where the low-traffic neighbourhoods aren't in operation, meaning a lot of noise and pollution for the people in the high streets. So that is one area where Rishi Sunak is potentially showing that, yes, maybe there are votes in a sort of less green agenda. And I think we will expect to see him moving a bit in that direction. But the problem, of course, for both parties is that they have, on either side, they're being put under quite a lot of pressure. There are a lot of Conservative environmentalists, for example. Think of someone like Zach Goldsmith, might be out of the Commons now, but he's very, very vocal in the Lords. And there are plenty of others too. There are also lots of young Conservatives who are very keen on the sort of green agenda. So Rishi Sunak is under pressure from them, as well as those backbenchers who think rather like you, I think, Martin.
As ever, they're trying to please everybody and not necessarily pleasing anyone.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there, Olivia. Thanks very much indeed for joining us today.
Yeah, I just think, you know, we just need a bit of clarity. I know I keep repeating myself, but, you know, people like Zach
You keep saying balanced agenda, don't you?
Yeah, but
no, I think you're dead right.
Zach Goldsmith is a millionaire. You know, he's a campaigning environmentalist.
He can afford to be green, can't he?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
OK,
I
keep going on about it. Sorry.
His ideas are good, but you can't help but think he can afford to be green, whereas the rest of us really worry about some of what would change our lifestyles, I guess.
Just feeding the pinch of the day-to-day existence of paying our bills, making ends meet, is starting to hurt people. The front page is saying bills are going up again. We want to be told that the future can be brighter, and not that the future means having to buy a new car, having to buy a new boiler, not being able to afford to go on holiday. Just give us some hope.
give us some money.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
It's the worry about money. And here's another one.
It is.
Several major UK lenders, including Nationwide, HSBC and TSB, have cut their rates on fixed mortgage deals, suggesting the home loan costs may have reached the peak.
Well, let's hope so. This comes after a significant fall in inflation in June. However, the Bank of England is still expected to raise rates for the 14th successive time this week.
Well, joining us now is property strategist and co-founder of Green Resi, Anna Claire Harper. Is it Green Resi?
Green Resi, exactly.
As in residence, yeah. What's happening there? I mean, are things going to get more expensive, or are we suddenly going to see things evening out?
Things, unfortunately, are already getting more expensive in quite a sudden way. There's about 2 million people living in homes which are either on variable rate mortgages or on fixed rates, which are coming to an end by the end of this year. And the problem for them is it's not a marginal increase, it's not an inflation increase, it's a 2 or 3 times increase in the cost of housing, which many people can ill afford at a time where inflation has been creeping up. So, unfortunately, things are getting a lot more expensive anyway. This is a positive sign in the short term because we need a bit more stability in the short to medium term in the housing market, but it's not necessarily enough for many of those people who are on variable or
no, because we know you always borrow to the very limit, don't you? Yeah. And maybe just above the limit almost. Yeah.
And it's interesting how, you know, historically, interest rates are a way of suppressing an economy that's out of control, normally by people kind of splurging money. But that's not what's happening now. This is basically, as we just discussed then, people are having to spend more money on utilities. They're having to spend more money on food, the day-to-day grind. Why are we persisting in rising interest rates? It's punishing people at both ends.
And the reason for that is because the Bank of England is supposed to be independent and reaching a target of inflation which is a lot lower than where we are today. But the knock-on effects on, for example, people's ability to have a quality of life that they've adjusted to, or their ability to spend money, their consumer spending, which again impacts economic growth, and also house prices, are all at risk in the context of increasing interest rates because everything gets more expensive.
Do we have any idea how many people are at that very limit where they were only just getting by with their mortgage payments, but any difference now is going to tip them over the edge and possibly into, I don't know, having to sell the house or some sort of negative equity problem?
There's definitely a substantial amount of people. I don't know an exact figure of how many people are just on the edge, but actually this coming to the end of your fixed rate puts you way above the edge, right? There are plenty of people whose salaries don't cover the new mortgage cost, which does then mean that in the short term we can expect a bit of volatility in the housing market because people who need to sell for any price. And you're seeing reductions. Some of the investors we're working with are buying at 20, 30, 40% below 2022 values.
That's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Because that's the only price that they can pay with higher interest rates available, and it's the only people need to sell.
Yeah, a mate of mine who I went for a drink with on the other day, he had a second house in London. He was keeping his retirement, and he came back to London and sold it, and he got a lower price today than he was offered 10 years ago.
No.
Yeah, even in London, which you think would be kind of inflation-proof, because simply it's so expensive to borrow the finance now. It's people are having to factor that in with stamp duty, so it's actually suppressing the house price. But let's be positive. Bricks and mortar is still something that we should cherish and keep faith with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's best seen as a long-term either investment or purchase and treated as such. And it's a kind of curiosity in the UK that we have shorter term fixed rate mortgages, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Whereas if you look at the Danish market, for example, they fix rates at much lower rates for much longer, which means that the market is more stable and you don't have these swings. Every 2 years when you come to the end of your fixed rate, you're subject to, actually interest rates have increased for a short-term reason, which is to control inflation, and it fundamentally affects the ability of the people who live in those properties, renters and homeowners alike, to be able to pay for their lifestyle.
I mean, you're a property strategist, which is an interesting term in itself, but it means, I presume, you take the long-term view.
Very much so.
So if you take a long-term view, although we're clearly going through an awful time at the moment, and a very uncertain time, will things ultimately get better? I mean, I say to my sons, I'm trying to, because they're so uptight about whether they'll ever be able to own a house and things like that. I say, just wait, in 10 years' time, it really won't feel this bad. You're panicking now. Am I right in saying that?
Well, I think longer term, it's still a rosy picture, but in order to reach that rosy picture, we need to invest for the long term. And one of the problems in the housing market is years of underinvestment.
Lack of stock.
That's part of it, but 98% of the homes we use in 5 years already exist, and we don't really invest in that stock. It lowers in quality, and a lot of it is not very energy efficient. So about 60%, the rental market is really the sector I know the most about. About 60% of those homes don't meet the planned minimum energy efficiency standards, and about 23% fail to meet decent home standards. So we really need to invest in that stock and invest for the long term, and the kind of clients we work with are investors who are looking at that long-term social and environmental improvement.
So that's going to be a big sales thing, is it? In 2 or 3 or 4 years' time, when you want to sell a house, it's going to matter to the people looking around your house that your house is energy efficient.
Absolutely.
Energy efficient and higher quality. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And what we don't want, Anna, is, as we're seeing in Scotland, the SNP, for example, is saying you have to install a £10,000 heat pump or you can't sell your home. I think this, back to the previous conversation, people are on board with this, but they don't want to be punished. They want more carrot and less stick.
Yeah, absolutely. Story of the housing market. There's been a lot of stick and not much carrot, in particular for the people who need to put capital in for the long term.
But there used to be great government subsidies for you if you wanted to. There used to be if you wanted to put solar panels on your roof, for instance, and that disappeared. Maybe we do need a bit of government impetus there to actually help us look at energy efficient ways.
Well, and they need to decide exactly what they want to do and commit to it before they can do that.
Oh my goodness, here we go again.
Yes.
It's the same old problem.
It is. Actually.
OK, Anna Claire Harper, co-founder of Green Resi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, don't go anywhere, because there's lots to talk about in the gossip business. Stephanie is going to be here with all the latest showbiz news, including why Harry and Meghan are being told they mustn't leave Montecito. Don't know.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Watry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest where that rain will be arriving, turning much greyer skies, turning damp as well as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures held back underneath this cloud and rain, but you might squeeze the 21, 23 degrees Celsius across parts of eastern Scotland and England during the afternoon. That rain is going to continue to spread its way eastwards this evening, could turn quite persistent for Northern Ireland, parts of Northern England. Some spray on roads is certainly possible for if you are travelling later on today, and then much greyer skies throughout tonight, with those outbreaks of rain continuing, feeling quite humid and sticky as well, not dropping much below 16, 17 degrees Celsius. But for northern areas of Scotland, actually a little bit of a chill in the air first thing on Monday, might drop into mid-single figures in those rural valleys. And it is northern Scotland that's going to see the best of the sunshine throughout Monday. Light winds as well, so a relatively pleasant day here. Elsewhere, pretty drab and grey with some outbreaks of rain throughout. Some brighter spells trying to poke their way through, but it is still going to feel relatively humid if that brightness arrives. Temperatures climbing to highs of around 22 degrees Celsius. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle. Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
and action.
Sergeant, we're being read my superstar panel that are already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. And welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin. Thanks very much for watching and sending in all your pictures of doggies. We've been talking so much about dogs today because of the dog napping story about little Twiglet. But we will try and show more of your pictures a bit later on. Right now, we are talking showbiz and gossip, and there's plenty of it. And Harry and Meghan are sort of top of the list. Stephanie Tetch is here to tell us. What's going on in their lives?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of talks about they're on the rocks, but I personally don't think it's true that they're on the rocks, but they are thinking of downsizing. So they've got this sprawling mansion in Montecito in California. They've lost a couple of multi-million deals, including the Spotify one last month. So apparently they're thinking of downsizing and moving to Malibu Beach. A top security expert in the US said this would be a significant security threat for Meghan and Harry. Where they are now in California, they're a bit more concealed. You move into Malibu Beach, you're right in the thick of paparazzi land. You know, from Harry's book Spare, he's made some damaging comments to what he said about killing 25 Taliban insurgents. So this top security expert in the US has said it's not a good move for them. One thing Harry and Meghan have always spoken about since they've left the royal family is that they want their privacy. So for them to potentially be moving from the seclusion of where they are in this mansion to Malibu Beach, this security expert is asking that actually you're actually inviting this.
Why would they want to do it? I mean, I can understand them needing to downsize because the money ain't coming in anymore.
Well, as we were just saying before the break, you know, at the moment, their mortgage is like £7 million a month.
Oh.
So can you imagine, they're not in the safety of the royal family anymore. They're now celebrities, and they're not like established celebrities. So if you're thinking long term, the money could potentially run out.
It's a fascinating transition, isn't it, from the gilt-edged life of royalty, which money cannot buy.
Even money can't be royalty.
No.
Then they've downgraded to celebrity status and are surrounded by people much, much wealthier than them.
Well, that's the thing. They've kind of aligned with celebrities who know how to play the celebrity game, who know how to get those endorsements, those deals, who can build a solid lifestyle. For Harry and Meghan, it's because they were royals that they've become celebrities. And, you know, rumour has it they don't want to be slandering the royal family anymore. But you need to understand in Hollywood, that's all they're interested about, what you've got to say about your family. You've done the books, you've done the documentaries. So now I can imagine for both of them, they have to think about financial investments and what's going to last them long term.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you see the Brits who have gone, or well, anyone actually who's gone to America to do the speaking circuit. They're people who've got something to say and who've got huge experience. I mean, Barack Obama is now a multi-millionaire because they've done it. Bill Clinton sort of set the way to do it, didn't he? Tony Blair followed the Clinton example, and clearly Boris Johnson's doing the same thing now. They get paid $1 million or several million pounds just for a speech at a dinner. And but they've got something to say. They have value. But what value, without being royal, what value do Meghan and Harry really have?
And I think the Americans are starting to wake up to that because, you know, British people, we've known the story. We're kind of like over Harry and Meghan, where I think there was much more fascination for them in the States. But now that they've said everything, the Americans are royalists. They love the British family, the British royal family. So I think even them, they're turning their perception against Harry and Meghan. So,
but I think they're realising they were sold a bit of a pup, and that is everyone's going to buy into this because, hey, they're royal. And then, actually, we don't want to hear another monologue on climate change or feminism. Or we know that girls' education, because guess what? Michelle Obama's been doing that gig for years. And so what do they got to offer that's new? The answer is not a lot.
No, you're right, Martin, and I think this is where they're going to have to do a rebrand, and why people are saying, oh, they're on the rocks, because they're not really trying to do projects together now. It's more Meghan will do separate things, Harry potentially going to South Africa to do a documentary. So they're going different routes.
No. See, I just wonder, because they've allegedly broken up with the Beckhams, who were best pals, and now they're not anymore. What happened there?
Well, apparently, Meghan accused the Beckhams of leaking stories. I don't know how true this is, but that is what's been said. But I don't think a power...
You know the Beckhams wouldn't do that.
I don't think a power couple such as Victoria and David need to do that. They don't need to court the press when it comes to Harry and Meghan. They, of course, the Beckhams did attend their wedding, but last year when their son got married, Brooklyn, the Meghan and Harry were nowhere in sight, so...
Shades of the kind of Wagatha Christie nonsense.
Like, who done it?
Except that the Beckhams are classier than
They are.
They wouldn't leak stories at all.
And the Beckhams have gone through their own struggles with the press, so I don't think they would do that against the royal family. Sometimes you hear these bizarre, outrageous claims, and you do think, is there any truth to it? But for me personally,
and
I don't think there is.
the Beckhams actually have a business empire. They have a business strategy. They have a structure. They have a team. They don't just sell tittle-tattle or gossip about the royal family, and that's a finite resource.
Well, if anything, Harry and Meghan do need to align themselves with such celebrity couples who can actually show them the way. Like, if you've given up royal life and you want to be a celebrity, you're going to have to be aligning yourself to such people.
Had a few words with them.
God.
What a silly business.
It just feels like the halo is fading.
It is.
Very quickly, the next James Bond. You've got a little morsel for us.
So we have a new name that's been put in the running to be the next 007. His name is Damson Idris. He's a black actor who starred in Snowflake. He's very much a rising star, so I was quite surprised bookmakers William Hill has said that him behind Aaron Taylor-Johnson is the next favourite to be Bond. What I'm about to say is a bit controversial. I do find it a bit difficult when they put a black actor forward for 007, because obviously we know he's supposed to be a white character, but recently Idris Elba opened up about the amount of racist abuse he experienced in trying to be 007, just the thought of him. And I think, you know, when you put now another rising black actor in that potential box, you know...
It's worth pointing out that historically in the Ian Fleming novels, in You Only Live Twice, Bond is revealed to be the son of a Scottish farmer and a Swiss mother, blonde hair, white skin. In Live and Let Live, they were in danger because he stuck out in a predominantly black area because there were two white men together. So if you're going to be, you know, stick figuratively and literally to the novels, it is a white guy.
Well, that's why 007 fans always get a bit upset about this. You know, I know we're very much living in that era where, you know, it's blind colour casting with different roles, but there's some roles people just like as is kind of thing. I think it's lovely. I would love a black 007, but I think maybe we could write something else so there's not that controversy. Yeah, a fresh character, like Idris Elba is Luthor.
Yeah.
He works as an agent, a naughty one. But
everyone's a winner.
It's an interesting one, interesting debate.
Great stuff, Stephanie. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. I think we're going to take a little break here now. You're watching Breakfast on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Monday to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Morning again and welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Anne and Martin.
Yeah, and joining us this morning is writer and journalist Emma Wolfe and broadcast legend Pete Price to go through the newspapers. Welcome back, chats, for two very spirited runs, so let's make it the best of three. Emma, let's start with you. Cost of living crisis, but Sunseekers refuse to bow.
Yeah, well, despite all the economic doom and gloom, people are still going on holiday. The average family is spending around 1,800 on their holidays this year, and they're still fleeing this miserable, grey, rainy country. Obviously, I'm sure you all saw the piece in the FT, I think it was yesterday, about the record profits. British Airways, Air France KLM, US Airlines, all of them just absolutely raking it in. Record high profits for the airlines. Rising cost of flights and accommodation also really
Flights are ridiculously high.
Flights, but also when you get there, accommodation is really expensive across Europe.
Yeah, but they've got to make all the money up after mega problems when we nearly lost every airline.
Yes, that's true. And people are determined, I think, to get
away because they've had enough. They realise how life is short.
Pretty much 2 or 3 years.
Oh, I think so. That period of lockdown and everything, we all realised how much we missed certain things.
Yeah,
and I think holidays, you have to have something to look forward to.
I think there's really something in that. You know, you don't know what you miss until it's gone.
That's right.
And that feeling of being hemmed up, and also staycations aren't getting any cheaper.
No. They're not
so
getting
many people
cheaper.
are staying.
And when it is miserable and you're looking around, you know you're going to go to Devon or Cornwall or somewhere lovely and it's going to rain. So
you know, sorry, I'm interrupting. The only thing I don't like is the behaviour on planes these days. I love the old days of respect. I would say to a lady, do you want to sit by the window? That's how I was brought up. Now it's a free-for-all, and trying to put your bag up top is great.
Ridiculous.
And there's a certain group of people that have the most ridiculous, I won't mention who they are, you know who you are, that have the most ridiculous hand luggage, how they get away with it.
Hand luggage, it's practically, you know, a fleet of suitcases.
It's ridiculous.
Somehow they've got it through. Then again, with a pram carrier, you can do all sorts of cunning things. You can put so much stuff on a pram, hang everything on a pram, underneath, in the pram bag, you just stuff it with stuff.
You're part of the problem, Emma.
And then the problem is when you have to fold that pram and get on an aircraft holding a baby with all of your other stuff.
But you see all the luggage, don't you?
Yeah.
Both the luggage that goes in the hold and the luggage that you're taking on the plane. You think, how is that plane ever going to get up in the air?
Well,
do it?
I have never heard of this before. I saw a story recently where a plane, the pilot asked 50 people to volunteer to go off the plane. It was too heavy to take off. I'd never heard of that before. I thought that was really scary. I didn't like that at all.
We all take too much.
Well, what's interesting is they're not weighing passengers. They're weighing your bag religiously. You can't go over your 20 kilogram. But, you know, people are getting a lot bigger. And so if you've got a lot of people, a lot of obese people on a plane, you might actually be way over the weight limit.
A little bit of controversy there. Weighing the passengers as well as weighing the baggage.
I think that's a great idea when you've got somebody...
We're not doing it because it's a sensitive area, but, I mean, if you're talking about the weight of an aircraft, what's on it?
And they used to do that. When they first started flying commercially, they used to weigh the passengers.
And balance them out.
And if you've got somebody very big next to you, they're sitting on top of you. And you're paying for... That's it. Would you mind? Get off. Hate it.
You're in an economy seat and you're already cramped. And if somebody rather large sits down next to you, that's your journey done for.
Paul Martin's time to move on.
No, I'm not. I absolutely agree. It's a hugely political conversation about should larger passengers pay for 2 seats. It's become very political in America. There have been lawsuits about it. It is a topic which will rumble. Pete, another controversial topic, moving on to your story in The Observer today. Tobacco companies promoting flavoured nicotine patches.
Very annoyed about this, very annoyed. The companies are exploiting a legal loophole to promote these flavoured nicotine pouches that go and sit under the tongue. And they can sell these to under 21-year-olds, so under 18-year-olds, and they can do it. And they say they're giving influencers on social media, they're paying them to do it, they're selling them at festivals. We are under a major problem here with this and also vapes. It really is. A friend of mine has given up cigarettes and is addicted to vaping, So we've got major problems ahead of us over this.
But then the problem of vaping is that it's being marketed, so it's really being targeted at, you know, teenagers, young people, the colours, the flavours, kids, bubblegum flavour. You're getting them hooked on nicotine. It still contains nicotine.
What's interesting about
and sugar.
It may not be smoking.
Dentists say that kids vaping is a real problem. Sugar on the teeth. You don't realise how much you're absolutely... And it's not just sugar like a sweet that you suck. It's sugar that's in a vapour form and it goes everywhere in the mouth.
And what's interesting about this is that flavoured tobacco pouches are very popular in like Scandinavia and have been for many years. But there have been lots of health reports about when you put it next to sensitive skin, you start getting mouth cancers.
Netherlands have just banned it.
And so if you shift the problem, so to speak, around your body...
That is horrendous.
Why Why are we allowing this?
The Netherlands have banned it, and Anne's saying, why are we allowing it?
Why are we allowing
but what is scary is we all know that people are getting addicted, and you see schoolboys and girls now on the bus with vaping. And, of course, you can get away with vaping a lot easier than cigarettes. So it really is a very scary thing. And to put a pouch under your mouth, and I love this description. What does this stuff say? It creates an incredible positive feeling. That's how they're selling it. That's called addiction and drugs.
But playing devil's advocate, Pete, is still better for you than smoking a fag.
Well, I don't agree, because my friend is addicted now to vaping. They've gone off cigarettes and addicted to vaping, and the vaping is in their mouth 24/7.
It's being marketed to a new market. It's not just marketed to smokers, is it?
And, of course, years ago, when you were unborn in the war, they gave cigarettes. The government would send cigarettes to the troops, and they're...
In the good old days. Emma, let's move on. You're going to cheer us up endlessly here by talking about damp squib of a summer, wet staycation misery.
Oh, I just feel so miserable about this. I know I've said it probably 4 or 5 times already in the programme, but I just wait all year for the summer, that feeling of having all the windows and doors open, wandering around in a pair of shorts and a T-shirt, and just being warm, even if we do have to stay in the UK. And frankly, it's been a washout. And I know we have serious problems in Europe. I'm not downplaying that at all. But could we have a bit of a swap? Could they send a bit of heat over here? Because I am miserable. And I've just read this, back page of the Telegraph, and it says all of this week and all of next week as well. So kind of, I was thinking we hold out for August. It'll all get better in August.
I don't think it's been cold. I've got balconies and I slept with...
putting on the heating.
No, stop it.
I didn't know. I didn't put it on. Obviously, it's July. I'm not going to put it on, but it's been chilly, the evenings. And they've been dark as well. The evenings feel like that sort of end of August.
We deserve a bit of summer in the summer.
Can we just have a bit of summer?
I'm off to Pembrokeshire. And
it's good for the gardens, all this rain.
I'm bracing myself for...
I hope you wrap up warm.
Well, we had a week in Penzance a few years ago, and we just ran out of dry clothes in the end.
Oh, my God.
Really?
Damp. There's something about being damp all the time.
Look, tell us the news about Strictly Come Dancing. Because they're signing up new names.
It's fab. Les Dennis, 69 years old. Angela Rippon, 78 years old. And a mere baby, Nigel Harman, at 49. What I love is, it's going to be great, but a little bit of respect for talent, people with knowledge in the show business world, instead of going for these people who slept in a building for 3 weeks and become a star overnight. It's about time we had talent back on telly. And Les is in 42nd Street. I went to see him. He's brilliant. He's a dear friend. He can dance a bit. And, of course, Angela Rippon and the legs are still tremendous. Last time I saw them.
I mean, Angela has an incredible history with Strictly Come Dancing because she was host of Come Dancing.
And it's the heritage and the talent, the actual skill set, rather than you look great, stand there and pretend you know what you're talking about. I'm with you, Pete.
Who's the comedy one, or have they not said yet? Because they always have one who's...
I haven't got one who's a comedy as yet, but Les is a comic in his own right.
He's a comic, but if he can dance, he can dance.
He can dance.
And he'll want to do it well.
And I've just texted him, sorry, name dropping, I've just texted him saying, I am mentioning him today, and he's in every paper all over the place.
And how's he feel about it?
He's very calm.
He's made up.
He's very calm about it. He's still getting over the fact he was killed in Coronation Street.
Well,
he never came to terms with that.
That was a long time ago.
But don't they have showbiz experience? I thought they were meant to be complete novices, dancers, or have I got that wrong?
No,
they're right to have
they're meant to be absolutely anybody, actually.
OK, absolutely anybody.
From Hollywood stars right down to, as you say, reality TV people.
I think Angela's got a real chance.
I think...
There will be great expectations on her. That's
I just think of her with Morecambe and Wise, and I will never...
It was a magic moment the whole country will never forget.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Just went, what?
Well, I've broadcast on this show with Angela where you are, and even then I just kept seeing Morecambe and Wise in my mind.
Well, when I worked with her, I mean, you know the way I feel about you. I was the same with her. I went, I had to pinch myself. Amazing.
That'll be good. It's showing signs of being a good lineup. That's excellent. Right, so that's Strictly. What have we got next? Oh, much more seriously, Emma, but something that that we need to know more about, and that's the hidden delays people are in getting cancer care.
Really, really concerning. I mean, you know, we know about targets and we know about people being seen within a certain amount of time, but actually, experts are saying, and the Patient Champion is saying, the Care Quality Commission, there's real delays for patients. They're waiting months for their diagnoses and then months more for treatment. They're missing the targets. People are falling into waiting lists and black holes. controls after they've been referred to a specialist. So this is for suspected cancer. There's admin errors, there's cancellations, there's delays in getting your scans, getting your scan reports through. And obviously, if you're a patient who can fight for yourself and can, you know, I don't know, chase up the consultant and send emails and be the way that we all are, and we know it's important, but a lot of people don't know. They don't know how to make themselves, you know, kind of vocal and to advocate for themselves. So I think this is really, really concerning.
You made the list then. Don't forget the strikes. The strikes have caused major problems with delays and backlogs. Major problems.
One in seven patients are still waiting to hear a month after they've been referred to the specialist.
It's an outrage.
The point about cancer is early diagnosis is the key.
Weeks
we know that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And they no doubt
Quite
will make
apart from the
politics
anxiety.
out of this, but we must forget this is a huge payback for those lockdowns.
Yeah, of course it is.
When we became the national COVID service and people missed their diagnosis. I've got friends who had to go private in grave worry. So, you know, people really need to get on this.
Well, a pal of mine has got to have his tonsils out and he's gone private because it's a 3-year waiting list and he's in dreadful pain and he's older. So 3 years, he's had to go private.
Now, look, we've only got 1 minute left, so let's cheer ourselves up with this statue of the Queen.
Yep. Which you showed the photos. Isn't it beautiful? Look at it.
That's Queen Elizabeth.
Fabulous. And the corgi.
Well, we can't get close enough to have a look, but it's her in her refinery robes, you know, the real... You know, the real queenly stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, to me it looks as if the corgi's actually under the frock.
Well, I think
just popping out, which is different. What I love about this statue is...
Where's it going to go?
Where is it?
It's on the corner. I don't know where it's going to go, but what I love about the statue and all statues, it's great for tourism.
Yes.
And we must never remember this woman. Love her, hate the Queen. She was...
You'd hate the Queen.
No one hates the Queen.
Well, sorry, hates monarchies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I beg your pardon, not the Queen. Because I loved her. She was faultless. And I would love to see as many statues as possible.
I like a good statue, yeah. I just wish there was a good one of Princess Diana. I really do. I think the only one they've got is in Kensington.
They have the lovely memorial gardens.
They have the garden with the two boys.
It's an awful statue. Come on, it looks dreadful.
But do you not think that all statues have... It's like a piece of art that you're looking at it and you have your own opinion.
I love the one of Winston Churchill in Parliament Square. Love it. Absolutely captures him looking, you know, big and grumpy.
That's one that the wokes always deface and try and
But it's great that the corgis are getting recognition after all these years.
Well, they've been very
Who gave
faithful.
us so much pleasure.
Yeah.
OK, I think we're going to have to leave it there, Pete and Emma. Thank you very much. Very lively morning. I hope you enjoyed it at home. That was fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us back.
Well, I'm so pleased you're back. It's absolutely lovely to see you. But we're going to a very controversial subject now, actually one on which you will have a view, actually, Pete. You'll have to keep it to yourself for the moment, because it's how to cook the perfect roast chicken.
I'm staying.
Yeah.
Staying.
Looking forward to this all day.
Now, it's basically, you want crispy skin on the outside, don't you? Juicy meat on the inside. And that's how to do the perfect chicken for the perfect Sunday roast. Or is it?
Yeah, you're in for a real treat here now as we have our favourite chef and broadcaster, Kevin Woodford, with all the tips you need. Good morning, Kev.
Good morning.
Now, we've been talking about this all morning. We've had endless tips and recipes sent in from punters. I'm cooking a chicken today. I'm, at the moment, favouring a recipe sent in by Brian, who says put strawberry jam and rock salt around the chicken. I can see you shaking your head vociferously there. Over to you. What's the killer recipe?
Right. OK, first thing I need to do, right, is this. I've got a little man that wants to say good morning because he's listened to you all morning. There he is, right? And he wants to say hello because he's heard all your doggy stories.
Yeah.
And now he can go to sleep. Good boy. Strawberry jam? For goodness sake. You're not going to do that. Are you mad? Are you crazy? This sounds like something... nightmare, you know, that one of these horror movies that... No. There are various theories about a chicken. Let's be frank. A roast chicken is the most beautiful, beautiful thing to eat. It really is, especially with a really great, crisp, fabulous salad. There's nothing nicer than roast potatoes. And the principles are very, very simple. They're really simple. You take a good chicken, around about, say, 1.5 kilogram. That is going to take, no matter what anybody tells you, that is going to take around about an hour and 15 minutes at gas mark 5, 190 degrees if you've got a convection oven.
Yeah.
And the principle is this: what you do is you get the oven hot first of all. A lot of people put food into a cold pan or a cold oven. It's the worst thing you can do. That needs to be at the right temperature to begin with, because otherwise what happens is everything starts to leak. It needs to seal very, very quickly. It needs to be seasoned with a coarse, I like Malden coarse sea salt, because it's really crisp. It helps to actually crisp up that skin. I like to put a half a lemon inside the chicken. I like to put thyme inside the chicken, a big lump of fresh thyme inside the chicken, and a little bit of lemon zest, grated lemon zest, just over the chicken breast. Then the very thinnest smearing of butter on top of the skin, okay? Then that goes into a dish which has already got big lumps of carrots, celery, leeks, onions. That's in the base of the pan. No oil, doesn't need any oil whatsoever, because there's enough fat comes out of the chicken. So that goes on to the vegetables. That's called a mirepoix. That's roughly cut vegetables. That's where the flavour is going to come for the gravy at the end, along with all of the sediment that comes out of the chicken. The chicken then goes into the oven. It's in the oven at that temperature. Don't muck about with it, except for halfway through. Pull it out with a spoon. All of the juices that come from the chicken, which is a caramelized, a natural caramelization, then that spoon that over the top of the chicken, that helps to give it that lovely crispy skin which you need. So what you're looking for is a chicken which is moist on the inside, cooked right through, and that is critical, because chickens are one of the most dangerous things to eat if they're if they're medium rare. Nothing worse than a medium rare chicken. A, it's inedible to eat. B, it's going to make you a bit ill for a couple of days.
Well, you see,
so a little bit of bacon.
Sorry, Kevin, I was going to say that's why we're talking about it, because people have been saying that the recommendations that usually come on the packet are too much. And it may well be that the supermarkets are scared that we're all going to poison ourselves by not cooking the chicken sufficiently, and they're telling us to overcook it.
Yeah, I think they do. They've got a duty of responsibility to look after their shoulders, let's be quite frank. So the last thing they need is any scandals. So you're right, but if you stick to that, if you stick to a 1.5 kilogram chicken and you work to around about 115, and I'll tell you in a moment how to actually test to see whether it's cooked, right? So you're halfway through, you baste it, that gives it a little bit more moisture, it keeps it nice and lovely, it helps to crisp up the skin. When you get to that 115 point, then the worst thing you can then do, which people do, is they like to stick forks in things to see if it's cooked. If it's a piece of fish, stick a fork in it. If it's a steak, stick a fork in it and see if there's any blood. What happens then is it starts to dry out. You don't do that. What you do is you get a long fork or anything like a spoon, and you put the spoon up the, what's it called, of the chicken, where the head used to be, and carefully turn it upside down and watch the juices run out into the pan. The juices need to be clear. They just need to be clear. No blood whatsoever. When you get to that stage, that chicken is cooked. Take it out of the roasting dish, put it on a clean tray, cover it. That's when you cover it with a foil. Because what needs to happen with cooking, there's a thing called molecular disruption. So all of the molecules, all of the fibers are disturbed. And what you want to do is let them rest. That's what you do.
Okay,
Let them
Kevin,
rest.
we're going to have to say thanks, and that's it, actually, because we're running up against the clock. But we got the idea. Molecular disruption. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right.
Sorry, Kevin, we're running out of time.
It sounds like a recipe. I might replicate that. Anyway, stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages. But here first.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Watry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest where that rain will be arriving, turning much greyer skies, turning damp as well as we head into the afternoon. Temperatures held back underneath this cloud and rain, but you might squeeze the 21, 23 degrees Celsius across parts of eastern Scotland and England during the afternoon. That rain is going to continue to spread its way eastwards this evening, could turn quite persistent for Northern Ireland, parts of northern England. Some spray on roads is certainly possible for if you are travelling later on today, and then much greyer skies throughout tonight. with those outbreaks of rain continuing, feeling quite humid and sticky as well, not dropping much below 16-17 degrees Celsius. But for northern areas of Scotland, actually a little bit of a chill in the air first thing on Monday, might drop into mid-single figures in those rural valleys. And it is northern Scotland that's going to see the best of the sunshine throughout Monday, light winds as well, so a relatively pleasant day here. Elsewhere, pretty drab and grey with some outbreaks of rain throughout. Some brighter spells trying to poke their way through, but it is still going to feel relatively humid if that brightness arrives. Temperatures climbing to highs of around 22 degrees Celsius. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Boxed Solar. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up? Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go. There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. And action.
Sergeant, read my superstar panel. They're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison? I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock on Sunday, the 30th of July. Today, North Sea oil could be set for a comeback. Rishi Sunak is going to announce millions, apparently, in funding for a new carbon capture project in Scotland, and that could create 21,000 jobs.
Yeah, if you believe him, that is. And 5 councils have lost their High Court challenge against the Mayor of London's plans for ULEZ expansion.
And the perfect roast chicken, we've just been hearing Kevin Woodford on that. Do you agree with him, or have you got your own recipe you're still going to stick to for Sunday lunch today?
I've got to say, I wasn't entirely convinced by Kev's recipe. When he said put foil on at the end, to me, that's going to make all that crispy skin just go soggy again. Anyway, as always, we'll bring you the most important part of the show, the latest weather update.
Just as one low pressure clears away, another one is arriving as we head throughout today as well. Join me later for the full GB News weather forecast and what that means for you.
Well, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, it's lovely to be with you this morning. I'm Anne Diamond.
Yeah, and I'm Martin Daubney, and this is Breakfast on GB News.
Well, the big pressing subject of the day has been chicken and how to roast it. I hope we've put that to bed, but clearly not. You're going to have a go later.
I'm going to cook Kev's recipe, and I might make my own little tweak.
Raspberry jam on the top. But also, we've been talking about dog napping and just, you know, how terrible it is to think that somebody can come into your home and steal your dog, and for what purpose. And it reminds us all about how precious our pets are to us. So you've been sending in your photographs, thanks very much. Nigel has sent this one in. This is Bella and Bess. Now, actually, it's for those of you listening on the radio, there's just this sort of clump of fur on the bed, and that, I think, is two dogs plus a fur throw.
Yeah, they got their legs
Bella
in
and
the air.
Bess, West Highland Terriers. Apparently, they wake up to GB News every day and they love basking in the sun in front of the patio door.
Beautiful. Joe in Sunderland says, see, this is Dylan, my beautiful double doodle. Look at that, a real fluffy, bit of a Boris Johnson lookalike.
It's a double doodle. I don't know, but beautiful. Bev says these are Robbie and Lola on their holiday in Northumberland.
Beautiful.
They're beautiful, thank you.
And Anne says, this is Sirius, a wonderful 7-year-old Tamascan. Look at that, majestic, at point, ready to go.
Yeah. Bethan says, our two Pembrokeshire corgis, mother and daughter, Nellie. They're beautiful.
And Bessie, look at that, fantastic.
Thank you so much for those lovely pictures. We have been inundated with lovely pictures, but our wonderful master of GB Viewses, Robin, has been sorting through them, and he says they're really lovely, but we can't get through them all. Because it's been another busy week of political news and there's still so much to talk about, despite Parliament being in recess. From Nigel Farage launching his campaign against debanking, and that's growing and growing, to the growing backlash against net zero, there's never a quiet day at the moment.
Yeah, and like some of our rivals who are also in recess at 9:30 a.m, Camilla Tominey will be presenting the only political show on a Sunday morning, and she's here to join us now. Camilla, it's been superb, your show. The ratings are through the roof, and today you got some serious heavyweight guests. What you got for us?
To guess. Well, we're going to have Nigel Farage on to talk about what I'm describing as the banking farrago.
Oh,
very
I like
good.
it. Yep.
Do you like that?
Yes,
Thank
like
you,
it.
Ab. And, I mean, it's just growing legs, this story, because we've got in The Sun on Sunday today Grant Shapps saying that he was debanked and so were members of his family. We've got the so-called bad boys of Brexit, so not just Nigel, but also Aaron Banks and Andy Wigmore.
Yep.
They've had problem with their banking. Of course, a lot of these people didn't speak about it at the time because they were worried of flagging, A, the fact that they'd been debanked by one bank and other banks not taking them on.
Yep.
And second of all, it also badly affects your credit rating. Even if you haven't got any credit problems, it affects your credit rating to be listed as one of these politically exposed persons.
And also, I think we're British and we don't like to talk about money.
We never
and things
talk
like
about
that. So I think there was always an element of shame attached to the idea that you might have been debanked.
Yeah.
But although the newspapers are obviously focusing on high-profile politicians, what Nigel's increasingly finding out and what he's going to talk to me about is how many ordinary people watching and listening to this, people who have heard about his campaign coming forward and saying this is a problem. It's also a problem, and this is in line with the GB News Don't Kill Our Cash campaign. Yep. A lot of companies are seemingly facing closure because of the bank's move away from cash. So businesses that operate with cash are finding it increasingly difficult. You then combine with that the shutting down of high street banks. And we know what happens to high streets when the bank closes down. The whole high street suffers as a consequence, and you then see empty properties, don't you, on the high street front. So we're going to be dealing with all of that and more with Nigel.
I mean, people see conspiracy theory in this, and you can almost go along with it. That the banks want to control our lives.
Yes.
And the best way to do it is to stop us using cash, to take us out of the banks physically by closing banks down in the high street, and then doing what the hell they want with us.
And what was fascinating as well was Gina Miller, the arch Remainer, having her account cancelled. Because don't forget, everyone at first said, well, it's Nigel Farage, who cares? Suddenly it's like, well, hang on a sec, if it happens to him, it could happen to you. Then his political nemesis is having it. So this isn't just...
who he supported, and she supported him. Because at the end of the day, I think people need to be saying to themselves, there for the grace of God go I.
Oh, yeah.
And if we're going to enter this Orwellian period where banks and other major institutions are going to start poring over our Twitter profiles and trying to analyse things that we might have said. I mean, it's not for a bank or any institution in this country to take a position on any of their customers' political opinions. And this is the other irony of this. You've got the whole Twitterati, serves him right and all the rest of it. Let's just imagine if the tables were turned and people who had expressed very left-wing sentiments and pro-Remain sentiments were cancelled by pro-Brexit banks. How would that... you wouldn't hear the end of it. So we'll discuss all that. The other major guest I've got on, and we're really pleased about this, I've got an exclusive interview with Priti Patel.
Now, Priti has been away, shall I say, for a while, so she should have a lot to say.
Well, she's been slightly below radar since she obviously left office as Home Secretary. She's been very much working in her constituency in Witham, which is kind of between Chelmsford and Colchester. She's dealing with a lot of problems on the doorstep, largely, ironically, immigration-related. She's dealing with a lot of problems when it comes to this war on the motorists. We've seen Rishi Sunak speak about this today in the Sunday Telegraph, this idea that people in Greater London areas are being affected by ULEZ, they're being affected by low-traffic neighbourhoods. There's even a story, interestingly, it's not a London-centric thing, this. There's a story in The Observer today about people in Bristol campaigning against some of these ultra-low emission zones. Because at the end of the day, and I know those who advocate it don't like to admit it, this is a tax on poorer people. This is a tax on working people, your archetype of white van man and woman, people who have to do shift work in the middle of the night and need to drive, your carers, and all the rest of it. So this strange prevarication by Keir Starmer in the face of Sadiq Khan's policy in London is intriguing, and I'm also going to be speaking to Barry Gardner, the Labour MP, about that. What is Labour's position on ULEZ?
What is anyone's?
I'm confused
what is
now.
anyone's position now? Because they are flip-flopping. I mean, it's Rishi Sunak coming out today and saying, I'm on the side of the motorist. Well, he never said that a week or two ago, did he, before Uxbridge?
Are you suggesting there's a bit of political shape-shifting going on? Because there's an election not far
I don't know what's going on. I just wish we could have a strategy being outlined to us, and then we'd know what to vote for.
I think Priti's also going to be quite strident on net zero, so stay tuned to listen to what she's got to say about that.
Well, let's hope so, because we've been saying all morning that what we actually want is clarity.
Yes.
And if people...
If only, Martin. We'll try and get that from the politicians.
But if people gave us a clear point of difference, is what people want, because, they've been toying with the idea of flipping around on net zero, maybe rowing back on the petrol car ban 2030, which most people think is crazy. Rowing back on ULEZ, but will they actually do it, or are they so tied into net zero talks by 2050 they can't? It's just all just.
I know. Well, also there was Rishi Sunak seemed to be suggesting that he wanted to delay the 2030 ban on petrol and diesel cars, and now he's rowed back on that in the Sunday Telegraph. The other thing I'll ask Barry Gardner, bearing in mind that we've got Nigel on the show, is where are Labour on the debanking thing? On one hand, you've got Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, saying, "Oh, I feel sorry for Dame Alison Rose. She's been bullied."
Yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, this is great, isn't it? You're the subject of a news story. Suddenly you're a victim of bullying. Incorrect. But also, where's Keir Starmer on it? Because he seems to, again, be umming and ahhing.
Missing in action.
This kind of political keep everyone happy and then actually please no one.
Sounds like a fantastic show,
It's a bumper show, 9:30. Tune in, please.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we'll be back with you in just a second.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, one thing that's great about a Sunday is you can just lounge back in your bed if you're still in bed, or on the sofa, watch a bit of telly, or let somebody else get on with cooking the roast chicken.
Yes.
That's what you're going to be doing in some form or other. Stephanie Tetchy is joining us, though, because you can also have a good gossip. And we were talking about the Barbie movie the other day, but, I mean, the Barbie thing goes on and on and on at the moment, doesn't it?
At the moment, at the global box office, Barbie's taken £545 million, so Barbie fever has just swept worldwide, and people didn't think it was going to be able to connect with audience this much because it's just a Barbie doll coming to life. But it seems now Hollywood seems to be obsessed, and now we're going to have a Dollywood fever that's going to be taking over Hollywood, because we've had Barbie, and now the next doll to get a cinematic makeover is Polly in your pocket, Polly in my pocket.
Polly Pocket?
Polly Pocket, yes, and that is going to be played by Lily Collins, actually. So
They're going to make a movie about Polly Pocket?
Yeah, Polly Pocket. That is going to be the next one. It's going to be directed by Lena Dunham. And I think what Hollywood is realising now is that people have an obsession with dolls because they've seen Barbie.
We all have one, I suppose.
Because Barbie works so well.
Well, I was about to say, how about a bit of gender equality and do an Action Man movie?
That would be interesting,
that would be very
actually,
good.
yeah. Because a lot of people have been criticising Barbie, saying it's too feminist, it's too high on the girl power, too woke.
As a trans Barbie.
I thought there was a nice balance, actually, in the movie between seeing the man's perspective and seeing the female's perspective. So I think people need to watch it and they'll be able to gauge a bit better.
Well, it's a satire anyway, isn't it?
It's all
it's not serious,
tongue-in-cheek. It's all tongue-in-cheek. But
I never knew Polly Pocket. That's a generation.
Neither did I.
You didn't either?
No.
She
went a miss for me.
I mean, Barbie was something to everybody. Everyone knew about Barbie, but You know, Polly Pocket was, I don't know what generation,
Yeah.
if you're watching at the moment and you were a Polly Pocket fan, what age are you, I wonder?
Yeah, like...
I know nothing about
Because I don't feel like even the age group after me were too big on Polly Pocket, but it's coming to
My
the
Little
cinema.
Pony, however.
Yes.
But there have been movies about My
Yes,
Little
and
Pony.
I think there is going to be another one on that one, actually.
Maybe I'm showing my age, but my sister Cheryl had a Cindy doll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about
you were
Cindy
either a Barbie
and
fan or a
Tressie.
Cindy fan, yeah.
Or you were either
Yeah.
a Cindy or a Tressie.
Oh, who's Tressie?
Tressie had hair that grew.
Ah.
She was much more teenagery than Cindy, who was very, very, you know, ordinary.
Yeah.
Doll masterclass.
Yes, Cindy was much more Blue Peter sort of girl.
Yeah.
Tressie was, you know, a bit wild. And if you pressed a button in her tummy, her hair grew.
Did it?
Oh,
so
that
you could
sounds
style
cool.
it.
I think I do remember seeing the advert.
So
for
a million
Tressie.
hairdressers were brought up on Tressie, the growing hair doll. But yeah, I think the point is that they're very clever at making good movies nowadays.
They are.
If the script is good enough, mind you, of course that's a problem because the scriptwriter's still on strike.
That's the problem. So that's why there's a big delay on it. So potentially some of the good movies we're talking about, even we were talking about Bond earlier, like ideally they wanted to start pre-production for it next year. That's going to be on hold depending what can be, you know, finalised in terms of contracts and agreements.
Let's do a quick bit of the world's smallest violins for Harry and Meghan. Security risk, because, you know, Crimea River, they're having to downsize their mansion.
They've lost a couple of lucrative deals over the past months, and it's now thinking that Harry and Meghan, even though people are saying that they're on the verge of Splitsville, actually they're thinking of moving from California to the outskirts of central Los Angeles to Malibu Beach. A top security expert has said that this will pose a significant threat to them because they've always asked for their privacy, but if you go and bang on into Malibu Beach, you're going to be in the city centre of paparazzi hell.
Yes, it's a silly move, really, for them.
Yes,
they
it
want any degree of privacy. They're going to where all the cameras are.
Yeah. So
OK, look, we'll leave it there at the moment because we are joined now, and we've been talking about energy security all morning. We've been talking about Rishi Sunak announcing that there's going to be this enormous carbon capture project up in Scotland, in Aberdeenshire, that he reckons is going to produce 21,000 new jobs. And we're joined now by the Shadow Secretary of State for International Trade, and he's Nick Thomas-Symonds, MP. Thank you for joining us. It's nice to see you again. You probably, like us, have been reading all these headlines about energy security. What do you think so far of what the Tories have said?
Well, first of all, it's very good to join you again this morning. Look, this is just another press release. We're 13 years into a Conservative government. They've managed to crash the solar market. They ended in effect, new onshore wind facilities from 2015. They failed to develop sufficiently a new generation of nuclear. They also failed, by the way, on gas storage. I mean, they closed and allowed to close the Rough facility beneath the North Sea off the east coast of England in 2017, left it closed for 5 years, when across Europe, other countries like the Netherlands, Italy, Germany, France were storing far larger percentages of their annual demand for gas. And all that meant we went into the recent energy price shock with Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine in a far weaker position. So I'm not, frankly, judging very much on the words coming from the Prime Minister 13 years in. It's their actions, in my view, that we have to judge them on.
OK, Nick, it's all fair and well having a pop at the Tories about where we're going to store gas, but where are we going to actually extract our gas? Because Keir Starmer's been quite clear, no more licences in the North Sea. That will cost us thousands of jobs, and it will leave us more reliant on importing gas from precise sorts of people you don't seem to like. Surely we should have some clarity from the Labour Party and say, actually, we should be energy sovereign, self-sufficient, and that includes exploring more licences in the North Sea, not less.
Well, we should definitely be energy secure, and we've been setting out our plan for that over the last couple of years. In relation just specifically on the issue of the North Sea, we've said, yes, we would not grant any new licences as a Labour government, but we will honour, and I think it's really important that we do this for business certainty and indeed for jobs, we will honour the fields that are already open. There is a field, the Rosebank field, in which I would expect the government to make a decision fairly soon. If that goes ahead, we will honour it. So those jobs will be safe in the North Sea on that. But we are also going to have a clean energy sprint by 2030. What does that mean? Well, it means that we will double onshore wind, we will treble solar, we will quadruple offshore wind. That will be done by a publicly owned company, GB Energy, but bringing in all that private sector investment we need as well. We know it's ambitious, but we have that plan that in addition to that will also insulate 19 million homes. So it'll be the jobs of the future, energy security, but bringing people's bills down as well, which is absolutely crucial.
What have you got to say about ULEZ? It became a bit of an issue, didn't it, in the Uxbridge by-election? And yet we're still not hearing, I think, from either party exactly what you mean to do about ULEZ, whether to embrace it and push it forward as a matter of policy, or whether to actually row back on it now because it's not very popular.
Well, look, I visited the Uxbridge by-election, I think it was 4 times, and ULEZ did come up to me on the doorstep. We've been quite open and honest about that. Now, there are discussions at the moment going on between Keir Starmer and Sadiq Khan. I'm not going to cut across those discussions, but clearly Sadiq Khan has already extended the scrappage scheme in recent months. The government needs to step up to the plate as well in terms of supporting a more generous scrappage scheme and putting that on the table. And clearly those discussions between Keir Starmer and Sadiq Khan will continue. But we do need to achieve clean air. That is absolutely vital in terms of saving lives. But also alongside that, being clear that the cost of living is absolutely central. And when I was talking to people in Uxbridge, of course, they were suffering from the Tory mortgage penalty, paying additional money on their mortgages. Nick, so obviously, additional charges are an issue.
Yeah, Nick, let's keep on point about ULEZ, because last Sunday, Angela Rayner, Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, said ULEZ is coming to every town and city across the UK. So can we have some clarity from you on that? It's OK to say that Keir Starmer's given Sadiq Khan a rap on the knuckles, but by the sounds of it, these kind of schemes, which are hugely unpopular and hammering the poorest during a cost of living crisis, are coming to a town near you under a Labour government.
No, I don't accept that interpretation at all. Our position is that it is for communities to make these decisions, whether it is in terms of low traffic neighbourhoods, where, by the way, there are communities up and down the country who want to reduce traffic going through their neighbourhoods, whether it is in terms of clean air zones. We've talked obviously specifically about ULEZ. Yes, we certainly believe a well-planned low traffic neighbourhood is a good thing, but it has to be. I'm going to speak to you as a Welsh MP here with the devolved administration in Wales. I'm a passionate believer in devolution.
So you're going to devolve this issue to local communities?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. You're going to sit on the fence on ULEZ and leave it up to local communities to decide. That gets you off the hook pretty neatly, doesn't it?
No, in terms of ULEZ, I'm not going to cut across the discussions that are ongoing, but I am being a believer in devolution is a very strong position that I've held for many, many years. And I think that is absolutely critical, because where communities want to see low traffic neighbourhoods, you have to take that into account. And of course, people can express their views at the ballot box all around the country. But I think it's important as a principle that decisions are taken as closely as possible to the people they affect.
We're going to have to leave it there. It's such a fascinating discussion, and we'd love to talk to you more. Sadly, we're coming to the end of the programme, so we can't. But Nick Thomas-Symonds, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. We've had a great show. Thank you so much for everything you've contributed to this morning's programme.
And please stick around for the Camilla Tominey show next. She's got Nigel Farage and an exclusive interview with Priti Patel that promises to be explosive. Please stick around for that.
Have a great Sunday, and even more importantly, a great Sunday dinner.
Yes.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. I'm Jonathan Watry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Low pressure doesn't really know how to quit at the moment. Whilst yesterday's low is clearing away, we've got another one arriving for Monday. It's being powered by the jet stream, which is still stuck to the south of the UK, and it will be pushing these weather fronts in as we head throughout the day. To start off with, there are some heavy showers across southern Scotland into northern England, perhaps the odd rumble of thunder in there as well. Far southeast, faring off a bit better, some sunshine, but it's into the southwest